What's going on, everybody, and welcome to this year's Choose to Live live stream. My name is Trevor Tyson, and I'm the host of Trevor Talks podcast.
And I'm Mary Nickel, and I am the founder of Rock on Purpose and co-founder of the Grizzly Awards.
And we're just pumped that you've decided to spend your evening with us, whether you're watching it live here on September 10th, 2022, or you're watching it way beyond then, maybe 10 years from now, which I hope this is a resource that lasts that long, and I believe it will be. Regardless, our mission is to provide a free live stream experience geared towards shining a light on mental health issues and providing an encouraging atmosphere of diverse guests to help open up on their personal struggles to help viewers choose to live daily.
And you're a part of that. We're inviting you to share this live stream with your friends so that they can be encouraged as well, that they get invited into the conversation. And you can also do that through using the hashtag Choose to Live on social media and then sharing why you choose to live. You can also share that with us in the comments, whether you're watching this on YouTube or on Facebook.
Yeah, and we're just so excited that you all are spending this evening with us. We've got so many amazing guests in this, including Adam Gontier, Spencer Chamberlain, Garrett Russell, Clayton Jennings, Lacey Sturm, Sonny Sandoval, Brian Head Welch, Austin Carlile, Chris Kael, Mikey Carvajal, Austin Carlile, Bourget, Mixi Demner, The Protest, Disciple, myself, and Mary, and we're excited to get this thing started. Please help me welcome my friends in The Protest.
What's up, guys? We're The Protest. My name is Joshua Bramlett. So for most of my life, I've struggled with anxiety and depression, and it got so bad that there were times where I wanted to take my own life, that I was seriously thinking about it, and on paper, everything was fine. I had so many blessings in my life, but it wasn't until I relied on some good friends and people who loved me, who would literally fight hell for me, to help me kind of climb out of that. So if you're listening today, I want you to know that you are not alone and that you can conquer this fear, but it's okay to ask for help, to ask for people who would do anything for you. And if you know someone who is struggling with these thoughts, fight hell to hold them. Be there for them. Thank you guys so much.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I was lonely, lost, and broken, always chasing after something. People come and people go, I was always on my own. Then you came along and saved me. You saved me. Never knew I needed you till now. Part of me was missing, nothing that could keep me from you now. As long as I'm still breathing, with my heart in your hands, I'm alive again. No matter what we've been through, I'd fight hell to hold you. Before I knew you, I was hopeless, incomplete, stuck in slow motion. People come and people go, I was always on my own. Then you came along and saved me. You saved me. Never knew I needed you till now. A part of me was missing, nothing that can keep me from you now. As long as I'm still breathing, with my heart in your hands, I'm alive again. No matter what we've been through, fight hell. never knew I needed you till now. There's nothing that can keep me from you now. As long as I'm still breathing, with my heart in your hands, I'm alive again. No matter what we've been through, I'd fight hell to hold you.
Man, y'all make some noise on your couches, on your toilet, wherever you are for my friends in the protest. I freaking love those dudes. They're some of the most talented musicians I know. I love the protest. Fully endorse them. I'm wearing their merch, as you can tell, so be sure to go check them out. That song was called Hell to Hold You, and it's such an amazing song from their Death Stare EP. And moving forward, we have our first panel discussion of the night, which I'm super excited about. We have a few of some of my favorite people on this planet a part of this conversation, with that being Garrett Russell of Silent Planet, Mixi Demner of Stitched Up Heart, Taylor Palmby from Heart Support, and Lacey Sturm, formerly of Flyleaf. This conversation is something special, and there's something for each and every single one of you in it. If you've just tuned in with us, just know that there is a reason to live. There's always a reason to choose to live. And stay tuned for more conversations after this. What's up, everyone, and welcome to this segment of the Choose to Live live stream. I'm super excited to introduce you all to some people that you might already know, but I'm hoping that we'll have a conversation unlike anything you've ever heard out of them before. So I really want to start with Mixi. If you could just share who you are, what you do, what your passions are, and etc., and then we'll just go through everyone and introduce ourselves.
I'm Mixi, and I sing in a band called Stitched Up Heart, and I have a ton of foster kittens that I'm super passionate about right now, so yeah.
That's awesome. And Lacey?
Yes, my name is Lacey Sturm. My husband and I sing in a band together sometimes, and I used to be in a band called Flyleaf, and there was an album they did I didn't sing on, and then I started my own thing with my husband. So now I'm trying to figure out how to navigate 11-year-old boyhood, because my oldest is 11, and I don't really know what I'm doing with things anymore. I don't know what life is. I don't know what life is about anymore. Existential crises I get pulled into all the time. So I'm navigating. That's what I'm doing. My main focus, passionate, is my philosophical child that trying to figure it out.
I love it. And Taylor?
I am Taylor Palmby. I do run all the social media at Heart Support, a mental health nonprofit, and I'm also a therapist.
Amazing. And Garrett?
My name is Garrett Russell. I was once a mental health therapist, and then I started doing music full time, though I am still very passionate about working with mental health and folks with various mood disorders. And recently moved to the South, and I'm getting used to bugs inhabiting every nook and cranny of my existence.
I love that so much. And everyone, I'm super excited to have each and every single one of you here, because if you've been following the email chains with me and your managers and such, this lineup has changed 6 times, and I believe that is exactly where it's supposed to be. And just the diversity amongst this group alone is insane, especially for the topic that I really want to go through with you all today. And that is the importance of just being open, discussing your mental health, and also the impact that community and just speaking about it can have on you. And with that being said, I'd really like to start with Taylor. Can you name a time that having someone to talk to and hear you out potentially saved your life?
Oof, yeah, pretty much every time I wanted to take my life, which unfortunately has been more than once. But most recently, I went through a really, really bad breakup, and I think that the amount of pain that I was in was very shameful to me. because it's such a trope, right? Like, girl goes through bad breakup, gets so invested, turns into drama queen, right? There's like some sort of stigma that I've always felt about how deeply in love I fall with people who aren't as deeply in love with me. And so I went through a really bad breakup with someone about a year ago, and after that, it just kind of sent me into this really dark place, this really deep spiral, where there were points and there were moments where I thought about, like, the world would just be better. It would just be easier if I wasn't here. I can't keep feeling this way. This is too heavy. This is too big. This is too hard. And community, friendships, I said, I don't just need a therapist. I need a therapist and a life coach. I need a therapist, a life coach, and every single person that I've ever met to hear how I'm feeling at all times. And I really just surrounded myself with community. I'm so thankful for Heart Support, because the Heart Support staff does such a good job of, like, walking what they preach, and all of those. I'm the only girl at Heart Support, and so all of those incredible men came around me and just encouraged me and loved me, along with my therapist and my roommate. And I think that I am so thankful that I know that I always have someone to talk to, and my heart just aches for people who feel like they don't have anyone to talk to, or that their story isn't important enough for them to share, that it's not even worth speaking about, because once you speak your pain, once you speak your pain and your shame, it gets a little bit lighter.
Hmm.
And Garrett, could you answer the same question?
Yeah, if I could just say something to
Yeah.
what Taylor said real quick. That's really profound how you said that you felt shameful about the depth of your pain. And I really resonate with that. I don't know if I've ever really noticed that in myself at the moment until now, and I'm like thinking back, and I think a lot of times people are in a level of pain that they're like almost ashamed to be in that much pain, because they feel like, you know, there's starving children across the world, so I don't have the right to have this pain. And while yes, there are starving people in this world, and yes, that is something that matters, a lot of times we tend to diminish our own pain, and that makes it harder to address the pain. So thank you for sharing that. It's really profound.
Thanks, Garrett. That's so good. That hierarchy of pain that we all fall into.
Yeah, yeah. And I think a lot of ways it's probably a defense mechanism of the ego that doesn't really want to, like, actually be in the light. So it's like, oh, this isn't, but that's another discussion entirely. We're talking about suicide. So I guess I should mention, I've tried to kill myself a few times, and the most recent attempt was in 2019. I was on tour in Europe, and I was in Belgium and tried to kill myself, and caused a lot of pain and a lot of confusion for a lot of people, and a lot of kind of secondhand trauma for my friends. And I during all of that, made a call back to the United States and got on the phone with my vocal coach. Her name's Melissa Cross, and she reminded me that what I was thinking and experiencing in the moment would pass soon, and that there was an entirely different, that one day I'd look on it entirely different, from a different set of eyes and a different mind. And I guess she gave me a little bit of curiosity in the middle of the darkness, and something that I've learned from attempting, and just the general notion of suicide is it's kind of like a very dark one-way, all or nothing street, and it lacks a certain creative impulse. And obviously, if you're struggling with suicide, I don't think you're not a creative person. But I think suicide is the least creative solution to the problem that we're faced with. And I think that over the course of the last few years, as I've come out of that, certainly it hasn't all gotten better, but I became open and started kind of imagining creative solutions, and realized that maybe therapy and maybe medications for for my brain were something I should be open to. And having that, I guess, creative problem solving, I would say in a lot of ways, saved my life. And very, very thankful for folks like Melissa Cross who were there for me.
Does anybody want to comment or add to that?
Wow.
Taking it all in.
It's
Glad you're still here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's
for being on
very
here with us.
wild.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And that's gotta be hard to say that out loud.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And Lace,
Yeah.
can you go next?
Oh.
Wait, I'm
Oh,
so
yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
Can I respond
Go
to
ahead.
Garrett too? I'm so sorry. Garrett, I love you, friend. You are so amazing.
Thank you. I love you too.
Thank you for sharing that here. And whoa, I've never, I'm like, suicide is the least creative solution. That's so good. I'm going to put that on a bumper sticker. Like, wow, that's really true. And I think in the moment, so many people feel like, if I had courage, this is what I would do. Like, that's what it feels like is in between you, is like whether or not you're brave enough to like take your own life, and to, and then there's the opposite where it's like these people have the stigma around it too. But I think to reframe it like that, of like, actually, like, if you just get a little more creative, especially for creative people who I think often struggle with these things that we're talking about, it's like, you're just not creative enough. Like, come on, be a little more creative, be a little more thoughtful, and you can find a better solution. That's a really beautiful way to phrase it. Thank you, Garrett.
And Lacey?
Well, yeah. Well, the first, I think, 2 times that I had this like really close call, I guess, I didn't have necessarily a conversation with anyone. I did have someone speak to me in a context that helped me to understand things that I didn't believe in before, like that I was not a mistake or an accident and that a burden. The first time I didn't have anyone. It was just a train of thought that went another direction, that just was thinking about my brothers and sisters. And then the second time was someone else speaking to me that stopped me. And then the third time, I did have someone show up at a hotel room, and just like the light turned on in the dark place, and just told me a lot of things that he was going through that helped me understand that that what I was going through wasn't it didn't have to, the solution didn't have to be this. Like, it was like you were saying, he had a creative end to his story that was not where I was heading. And so yes, there was one time where that happened. It was a conversation with someone who showed up, a man and his wife, and that conversation really did change the course of that event. I'm here. So, yes, but I also.
Thank God you're
I'm sorry.
here.
Oh,
Thank God you're
thank
still
you.
here.
I think it's interesting to me too, like how easily it is sometimes to slip into a really dark place because you tell yourself nobody's there. In the first 2 times, nobody necessarily was interacting with me. Like, I wasn't sharing myself with someone. And the third time, yes, that did help, but I don't think it's always has to be the key. I feel like, I mean, with my experience, it was a spiritual experience. And before that, I didn't have any spiritual grid, except I had some encounters with demons. I might not have called them demons. Well, no, I would have definitely called them demons before, but I didn't believe in God. I didn't believe in that there was a purpose, that I was intentionally created, that I felt like, life is just a sort of an accident, and we make what we can out of it, and you're on your own. The suffering is, going to happen, and you're going to go through it, and you make the most of whatever you can, and nobody's going to save you. You got to save yourself. And so when I had that, and that third time, no, it was a second time, a second encounter with someone stopping me from going through that plan. I had that encounter with God where it was like the first thing I understood that there's more to this story than I'm just what I've walked through with my physical being. There's more to this than just the physical, and I'm not an accident, and none of this is. And that really shifted my perspective of like, well, maybe there's more to purpose behind all this pain, all these circumstances, and there is purpose, obviously in this life, but I think even beyond, which of course I can't tell my story without saying that. I know we all have different ones, but that's the truth. That's what I saw. So
I remember, Lacey, reading the reason after we did that tour together, and I was in the airport, and I finished it at the layover, and I was crying and laughing, and I remember one of those stories, and I'm just sitting there with your book, and I'm just like, I'm like, there's all these people walking by me in the airport, and it was just like really, so I know kind of one of those stories of what you're saying, and those spiritual experiences that happen that kind of wake you up and realize that there is more to it, and there is this purpose that's bigger. And sometimes our brain just takes us down this really, really dark path, and it can almost like spiral and keep going. And then once it goes into these negative thinkings, it just keeps going and building on top of it. And then you find yourself in this place where you just don't think there is anything else. And it's like the darkest place. I was just talking to, before we got on this call, because of this conversation that we were having, and personally, I'm too scared of death. I have been really, really, really in dark places before many times, but I'm way too scared to die. So I haven't actually attempted that. And for me, if I do get in those negative places, those creative thinking and trying to find something, it's hard to see it when you're there. But I was talking to one of the girls. I'm usually the one on the other end that's listening to someone that somebody's holding on to, and that I'm trying to keep afloat and keep like that life raft out there for them. And I was talking to her, and it was right before we started the album Darkness, and it was dedicated to her because of the conversation that we had like a week before, out of the, I don't know how many times she was in the hospital and how many times I was trying to keep her, like I didn't think she was alive a lot of times, her and another girl. And I wrote the song Darkness because I was trying to be there in her shoes and understand and give her hope that, like, yes, I've been through this before. I can do this again. I've made it through it before, and I can come out stronger because I know I've made it before. It was weird because she knew, like, in her brain, that was it. She was a nuisance. She was in the way. She was nobody cared, and it would be better if she was gone, right? But I just kept holding on, and I told her that if you just promise me before you do it, talk to me first. Like, anybody that's listening right now, email me, mixikitty@gmail.com. Talk to me first. Come to me, because I'm here to listen, and I'm not here to judge you. And I'll do whatever I can, and I'll hold on to you as long as I can, as much as I can. Wow. So I was talking to her earlier today, and she's been, since that time, that period of time, this small period of time that nothing was ever going to get better, a couple of years ago. Now she's got a husband. She has a home. She has a 1-year-old baby boy that just got his birthday, and she's just, everything's not absolutely perfect, but she isn't in that place anymore. She doesn't want to take her life anymore. And it seems like that's the only way out when it happens, when you're there. It seems like just there's no way out of this. It'll never get better. But it's almost like if you just take it like a day at a time and just I'm just gonna live today. I'm gonna make it through today, the next day. I'm gonna make it through today and find someone, that's not gonna let you go, and actually talking about it and reaching out to people is really important, because if you don't say anything, nobody knows. I think people are really scared to just tell people because they don't want to be a burden any more than they feel like they already are. And just know that anybody listening that needs someone or is trying to help someone, just be there for them and listen, and don't judge them. And I'm here if you need me. MixiKitty@gmail. Just please, I'm here to listen, and I'll hold on as long as I can with you.
Wow.
That's powerful for you to say, especially because not everyone struggles with the same things. You can be in a dark place and not be suicidal. You can be anxious and not depressed. You can be depressed and not anxious, and it's different for everybody. And the fact that you could share your story of I've been in those dark places, I realize that that's so real, but it's almost like you've been gifted with this aura of, I want to help people choose to live, because you don't have that feeling or that burden on your heart that you just want to end it like that. And like you said, you're scared of death. And that's what's so powerful about these conversations, where you have so many diverse people come together hey, my story is so different from yours, but we all have one thing in common. And just the fact that you're being so vulnerable and open to that, because a lot of times when you get on conversations like this, people feel like they need to relate as much with the next person, so they'll semi-make things up in their mind to try to relate with the panel, and nobody's done that, and nobody on this whole live stream has done that, which is awesome. But Mixi, that's powerful, and the fact that you're open to speak with people means you are actually walking the walk, and you're being there for people, and you're a spitting image of what we want people to walk away from this with. Be there for people, be there to have conversations. And I just wanted to say that because that was beautiful and amazing.
Mixi, that first of all, I can't even imagine if an artist that I looked up to dedicated an album to me, I would have to live forever. What a gift. That is so beautiful. Such a beautiful thing that you did. But I think what you said about and between you and Lacey, this idea of sometimes people aren't always there, and that actually doesn't say anything about you. If someone isn't immediately there and isn't showing up, that doesn't actually say anything about you. And you deserve, if you need someone, you deserve to reach out, because sometimes people aren't not there because they don't want to be there. It's because they don't know what's going on for you. Even if you think it's obvious, even if your pain, you feel like you wear your pain on your face every single day. If you don't reach out, if you don't ask for what you need, that person maybe just never got the opportunity to be there for you, and they would have loved to. And they would love to. And you deserve to do that, whether you're reaching out to a person, whether you're reaching out to a community, whether you're sending Mixi a Gmail, whether you're going and posting on the Heart Sport forum, which we are here for you. If you feel like nobody is here for you, Heart Sport is here for you. We love you. Or whether it's God, whether it's spiritual, whatever you feel like you can reach out to and you can connect with and feels possible for you in that moment, as long as you don't stop reaching, reach.
Well,
Just
reach. I mean, I think it's really important what you pointed out, that sometimes, like you said, if you don't hear from somebody, it has nothing to do with you. I think there are some times where we can have everyone. I mean, Garrett, you just said you were on tour in Europe when you had this time in Europe, and I too, I was in a position. I mean, we weren't huge at the time, but I was in a band. I had people singing our songs. I had people hugging me and saying, "You saved my life." And, there's people who loved me in my life, and people reaching out, and people I could have reached out to. And sometimes in those dark times, you just can't see that there are people who love you. And no matter how many people reach out, you still feel alone. No matter how many people were there. Like every 5 minutes, I'm like, I have no friends. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my gosh, look how many friends are calling. Like I'm so, like my brain just like, there's times where it just feels like, because there are parts of you no one can see. You can't communicate. There's just some things you won't ever be able to express. There's just things about us as humans. We're complex creatures, we're deep, and we're eternal. And there are things in there that we don't ever see in somebody else. Nobody gets this part of me. I didn't even know how to say this. I don't get this part of me. You know what I mean? And that's that part of us makes us feel alone sometimes. But it's actually our uniqueness. It's actually, maybe it's not time for that to be shared. Maybe that's not, you know what I mean? And it can be like, I wrote a book the second book I wrote called The Mystery, and I was learning about what does it mean to be a woman? I mean, like it was a season of my life where I was like, women are crazy. Like freaking crazy. Like who do I have to look at and be like, who am I gonna be? Like I'm turning into an adult, and like my second, and I've just ruined so many relationships. I've done it wrong. I've been a woman I've hated. I've been the kind of woman I said I would never be. I've done things, and I was thinking about all these things, and I was just our music is like emotional vomit. It's just like, bleh, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm thinking. And then I just read, share. And then I'm like, nobody look at me. You know what I mean? Like, it's like this weird, like, I don't know, like, but at the same time, I'm thinking I realized there's something like I'm started to understand about mystery that's beautiful. And so I started to learn about being a mystery and recognizing there's something beautiful in the things that are mysterious about myself, to myself and to others. And as an artist who's just like an open target, and here's my diary, and that, it's like, can I be a mystery? Is there something to that, and something valuable and precious that even if I don't get to share it, to actually just like be okay with that. I recently lost someone, to suicide. And this person was the most beautiful, deep, like just creative artist. Like I believed in them so much, and more than they believed in, obviously more than they believed in themselves. And the thing is, if I could have just told this person, let your mystery be beautiful and let it be yours, and it's okay. You're an unopened present. You never know when you're gonna, like, that part of you is gonna be shown, or maybe it won't. Like the ocean has creatures we've never seen. Why? There's beauty there. There's something to that. You make the world different by just, I'm sorry, I keep talking. I'm still talking.
I could listen to you talk forever, please.
Yeah, please keep talking.
Well, I just feel like, she was like this one that I loved so much, this person. I was like, I was just like, they felt so alone, and they had so many people who loved them, and they felt like, and I think there was something to the fact that they just couldn't get it all out at the same time. It just wasn't unfolding fast enough for them. They wanted life too fast. They wanted things now when it wasn't time yet, but they didn't get to see it unfold, right? And life isn't unfolding, So it's just like we're in such a hurry, and we look back yesterday and we're like, that sucked. It's always gonna be that way. I don't want to do it anymore. But then when somebody else is looking at your life, like, but I saw so many freaking beautiful things you've done. I've seen so much beauty in your life. You're like, where? And it's like, but it's there. I'm sorry, I need to stop talking. Okay.
No, Lacey, thank you.
Yeah.
Am I frozen?
No, you're good.
Oh, everybody's frozen. Maybe my alarm's finally going off.
We can't hear it, so you're good.
Okay, cool.
And Lacey, that's a lot.
Sorry.
No, like it's great. Like thank you for doing that.
I'm
And
doing.
just being open and vulnerable about things that are going on in your life. And I mean, you said that you wrote about what it's like to be a woman, and instantly what popped in my head was like, Shania Twain's got a song for
Oh my
that.
God.
But you know what?
No, I don't get that one. I was like, this, I do not relate with this one.
I don't think it's a mental health song, so we're good. But
Might be for someone.
maybe.
Wasn't helpful to me. I don't know.
But just the fact that we're open to have these vulnerable discussions and talk about these things that are so near and dear and personal to us lead me to the next question. And that is, why do you feel it's important to talk about the things we experience in our lives, such as mental health and suicidal thoughts? And I'd really like to start back with you, Lacey, since you're fresh off the cuff there. And
Can I just listen for a minute? I feel like I'm talking.
yeah,
Kidding. Somebody else.
anyone want to volunteer as tribute?
I think it's important to talk about mental health and suicide because I think that's like hope in action. I think that when you're going through a dark place, there's a voice that, and this has come up in the previous segment, there's a voice that kind of says like, no one can understand this, right? Because like, and to some degree that there's a truth there, that like there's a depth and a uniqueness to everyone's experience that language is still too primitive of a tool, right? Like we, no matter how many millions of words we have, language can't really get at things right away. Even if you had the entire thesaurus dictionary downloaded into your brain, it's just the limits of communication that there's just some stuff we can't express. And a lot of times it can only be expressed through other types of languages. Maybe it's not spoken language. Maybe it's by like presence, by like sitting with someone. Maybe it's by like painting, by drawing, by making art, even by, you know, going out and going to the gym and working your ass off. I mean like there's a lot of ways to, I think, express pain. And I think that when we do it, when we have these conversations, we're saying there's this thing that is maybe to some degree unknowable, but it's worth trying. It's worth trying to open up, and I'm gonna like try to do the impossible. And that is, I think, at the core, what all creativity is. It's like, I'm gonna do the impossible. I'm gonna create this thing, and it's never what you expect it to be, and it can't be, because we're entering into a space where it's not just you anymore. Now it's you and someone else. Communication is not just transmission, it's reception. So like we create these worlds when we have these conversations, and it's so it almost seems like foolish sometimes to try to describe the ineffable experiences of humankind, but at the same time you realize it's either that or it's distance, and it's isolation, and it's hopelessness. Mm-hmm. And for the vast majority of people that are struggling, isolation is at the root of it, or is at the very least contributing to the pain. And so you sort of, it's like that don't go gently into the night, you know, kind of thing, where you say, hey, I might not be able to express this, but I'm going to try, because I believe that I'm worth that, and I believe you're worth that. And it's hard, and it won't come easily, but I think that love is kind of that. Yeah, is the impossible, people loving against the impossible.
That was, can I respond to that? That was really, really important for me personally, because I'm in a season where I have no idea how to communicate what I'm experiencing or thinking, and it's been weird, because I'm a communicator. I feel like, I mean, I don't know what I am now, but I don't know. We label ourselves, but it's weird for me. It's strange. It's a strange season. And so what you said was really great, to acknowledge the fact there's some things there aren't words for. And that feels way like weird and alone and strange. But when you said isolation is really and the person that I lost, just to clarify this, that what happened at the end, that they quit talking to people and they quit doing their counseling and they wouldn't answer the phone, and it was the isolation that was the thing that made it dark in that last part. And so that was just so brilliantly said, because it's very important that we acknowledge, as people who struggle, I mean, me personally too, that even when you feel like you can't explain it, to try, and it's hard and it's vulnerable, because when you do and it's not received, it's like, what am I doing? I feel so like I just stripped down naked, and they're like, I don't get you. You're like, why'd I do that? Don't do that anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that feeling of like just vulnerability, and but to keep trying. And like, my husband and I are in therapy together as for marriage, because we've just done that since I was married when I was 18, divorced when I was 21, and every time there's something wrong, I'm like, we're going to count like 14 years next week or whatever, in a couple weeks now. So it helps. There's nothing wrong with it. It's great. We're humans trying to figure out each other. Can't figure out ourselves. So, but that's the most painful, vulnerable thing. And just to say, well, we have a session next week. We'll wait till then to talk about that weird thing that we can't get over. And then for now, let's, what do you want to eat?
Lacey, I'm dying. As a couples therapist, it's also so painful to stop the session when you're like, okay, we only have 60 minutes. I don't know. All I want is to beg you guys to not continue talking about this, because you can't, it's too raw. We need some support.
Yeah. Timeouts are good.
But that's awesome.
I don't know.
The best time to start therapy is before you really, really, really need therapy.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I've had those high moments where I'm like, I don't need therapy anymore. And it'll be like, mostly when you're on tour, right? So I'll be like, oh, I'm on top of the world. I don't need this. And then like 2 weeks later, it's like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have closed the chapter on that. And then you just have to start from square one, or at least that's how it is for me. So it's good that you could acknowledge, like, even publicly, because for some reason, a lot of people still carry that, like, shame or the thought of shame associated with therapy and mental health. Mm-hmm. And it's cool to finally start seeing the stigma break. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, but like, especially like within like my faith, like the Christian faith, it's been very taboo to talk about. And especially like when you see pastors take their lives or etc. They're like, oh, where was your God then? And it's like, we all go through dark things, and like, they aren't God, So, and even in my life, having like friends that are pastors do that, and it's hard to understand. But the one key thing is, like, when you wake up in the morning, there's always a reason to choose to live. Hence why this is called Choose to Live. It's not like a one and done thing. You have to make that decision for yourself. And a lot of times it starts with community, and it starts with just being open. When you bring those dark things to light, it starts to shatter and go away.
It's true.
It's never going to be like the perfect life, and you can't expect that out of anything. But if you're listening to this, there's always a reason to choose to live. Point blank.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. And I also think, Lacey, kind of piggybacking off what you and Garrett were both saying about how there are some things that are like nearly impossible to explain and describe about ourselves, and some things that we may never even know about ourselves. But I think, and in my work, I get to see this particularly with couples. Sometimes the only way we can heal our wounds is when we share them. When they're shared, where they're seen, and then where someone comes alongside us and doesn't treat us like we're broken and treats us instead like we're a person that deserves love, that our shame, our pain can only heal in the light. So if you never bring it up, if you never try to explain it, you never try to put words to it, you never try to communicate it, whether that's through music, and I'm the first one to say, I think that, you know, I try to use music and art in my therapy practice as much as possible, because I think it describes and gets to the root of things in a way that sometimes we're not able to communicate in our own words in that moment. But if you don't try, it's just going to stay in the darkness. It's just going to fester, even if you don't say it perfectly, even if the person doesn't hear you perfectly, because so often we don't hear what this, we make meaning that's different than what the other person is actually saying. We don't hear what's actually being said. We hear based off of our own stories and our own projection and our own pain. And so even if someone doesn't hear you and doesn't show up for you, that's mostly not on you. That's probably a lot on them as well. But if you don't try, then it's always going to be in the darkness. And I think like what's so powerful about things like this is I know from my experience that the most beautiful rebirths in my life, the most beautiful homecomings, the most beautiful risings have always come after these moments where I almost just threw in the towel and was like, I can't do this anymore. That it was like from these deepest pits where I not only became closer to other people, but I became closer to the best, truest version of myself. Like I right now am the best version of myself that I have ever been. And I'm the happiest and the most in alignment with my dreams and my goals and my vision and that I've ever been. And if you would have told me that that's how I would feel even 6 months ago, I would have been like, you're so bullshit. Like you don't know anything about anything. And I'm just going to always feel this way. And I know that after having this happen a couple times, I now am like, okay, when this comes again, if it comes again, hopefully it doesn't, but I know that it can serve purpose in my life, that it can be like the dirt and the grit and the ugly that helps me bloom into who I'm supposed to be. And I just have to keep holding on. And part of that is not being afraid to show it to yourself and communicate it to yourself through journaling or writing, creating, or communicating it to others. Like that is just a part of the rebirth process. It's like the water on the soil.
That's so good. Yeah, growth is painful. It's and it's not easy. It's and you thought 6 months ago there's no way that you could be, you know, but there was a lot of pain that grew you a lot, and that's so cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Garrett.
Yeah, that was really powerful the way you said that. It's interesting too that the way you talked about you had these dark moments that you were like, no, I mean, I guess we all know that on the other side, you would never be able to believe you'd be on the other side. I remember how many times I said, even as like a teenager, like, I'll never have kids. Probably, you know, like even after I got divorced, I was like, I'm never getting married again. I didn't even want to get married in the first, like, I'm like, I'll never be married. I'll never have kids. I'll never be a musician for sure. My mom was a musician and I really resented that. I was like, the never things, but they're so real in the moment, especially when you're depressed. I mean, it's like a cloud. It's like a cloud that you just can't, and you can't talk yourself out of it. It's like somebody else has to be able, that you trust, has to be able to say something to like turn the light on. And it just has to be, and depending on where it's rooted, you never know what, like, I could probably finish your sentences right now. Blah, 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 I know what you're going to say, you know, but then if it's rooted somewhere where somebody actually hits it, it could be the most simple thing, like, you're not alone, or, you know, you're not an accident. Like, it gives something simple that it feels cliche, but if the root's the right spot, it's like, oh my God, you know, like the light came on and you feel like a Mack truck just went by you and you almost got hit by it, you know, and just like, just this realization. And when you said it's happened a few times where you can look back and you can say, okay, I feel this is the way it is now, but I've seen myself come through. And I think Trevor, like dealing with anxiety, like to be able to be in a place where everything feels like fire. The building's on fire. And to be able to say, wait, fear's a liar. Like that was your clothing brand for a little while. I had the t-shirt. Like, and it's lying to me. And I'm just going to breathe through this because I've done it enough times. Like, I mean, I'll let you talk about it.
It's quite funny you bring that up because if you remember on the 2019 tour after I experienced someone taking their life, which is how I met Garrett, in Mississippi, we were doing that festival and I was having a terrible panic attack before the show. And obviously we all prayed and just got me back in a place. And Josh came up and he's like, are you good to do your thing? And I'm like, yeah. And I went up there and I don't remember exactly what I said, but I know that it was meaningful. And if I were to have chosen to let fear own me in that moment, we wouldn't have heard the stories after the fact. And not that we do it for that, but
Yeah.
there's always something lying to you. And when your heart starts pounding out of your chest and your mind starts racing and you're experiencing these things that you can't really put into words, it's a perfect scenario for you to want to give up.
Mm-hmm.
But when you take a step back and you, like, for me, it's like prayer and working on my breath, like, and you just feel like, for me, like my lungs get full of air and then it goes into my brain as well. I think that's what it feels like anyway. And it's almost like I'm just breathing out that negativity and those things that I was experiencing. And yeah, for you to bring up fear is a liar, like fear is a liar. You are stronger than your symptoms. All of these things that were once on shirts and stuff were rooted out of the things that I was experiencing. And the fact that we're all able to rally and talk about those things is meaningful. And we're talking about things that, like, 6 months ago, a year ago, you couldn't have fathomed. Like, doing something like this in that moment was not like a thing. Even a year ago, it would have been hard to believe. So things like, yeah.
Also, if you can't do it for yourself, like if you can't do it for yourself, share your story for someone else, because it will either create a doorway for them to share their story, or it will inspire them, or it will just bring closeness. If you can't share it for yourself, if you can't share your pain for yourself, share it for someone else, because it matters and it will help them. And like, that's what it did for you, Trevor. What you're talking about is like, you went up on stage and you share your story and you talk about it, and you got to hear stories about that afterwards. That's what I do at Heartsport. Every time I share something vulnerably with someone, it's met with love. It's met with more vulnerability.
Yeah. And even if it's not like suicide specifically, when you start getting into things that are still taboo to talk about relating with mental health, like eating disorders and like chronic illnesses that lead to mental health issues,
Silent Planet has a really great song about eating disorders.
They really do. They really do. And I mean, it's insane to think about. Like, I remember scrolling through Heart Support and you were jokingly talking about the Machine Gun Kelly post a little bit ago. And like, that was something meaningful for you, but for some reason, other people took it negatively. Yet when you talk about your eating disorders and things that you've experienced in your life, like, people see that, they receive it, and a lot of times they choose to move forward because of that vulnerability. We all have something unique in our lives that can help other people choose to live and just be a light in their life. And whether it's spiritual or not, like, we're all on a journey. And there's a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of A/B testing. There are a lot of things that aren't going to work for you. But I promise you, if you keep chasing it, or for me, it was like keep chasing him, like, you will get past that.
I feel like with sharing, I do a lot in some meetings that I go to, and it took a while to like share my truth like to everybody, because you are so ashamed of these little things that you don't think anybody else thinks of or feels, and you're the only one that goes through this, and then you let it out, and all these people hear it, and then they share and they talk about how they feel the same way, and then you find that you're not the only one with those feelings that you're so ashamed of, those skeletons in the closet. Everybody has a skeleton inside them. So we have a lot of similarities in that sense, a lot of human emotions and things that every time you let go of one of those things you're ashamed of, or you think that people are going to judge you for, and you say it out loud, it's like you release this like poison out of you, and it helps like lighten this just feeling of like secrets and hiding, and you're not really being who you really are. And when you can be your authentic self and just honest about it and own it and be vulnerable and share your truth, then you can be freer in that aspect. So I think sharing is very, very important.
Yeah.
Also, sorry about all that. My alarm finally went off, and
All good. And
Can I say, and how much are we about to run out of time?
no, like, keep going as long as you need. We have one more question, so I would say at the max, like another like 20 minutes max, if that's okay with everybody, to just roll through these last two. Cool.
Well,
Go ahead, Lace.
well, it's interesting though. We talk a lot about coming into the light, and of course, you know, there's scripture about that. I remember that was one of the most important things when I first came out of that moment where I guess was going to end my life, and I had this encounter with God, and I didn't know if it was the God, what God it was, but I knew it was Creator, whoever created me. I knew that's what I was experiencing, and it was terrifying because I literally, what I experienced was a lot like a near-death experience. A lot of people, I didn't realize that wasn't what every Christian who said, I found Jesus or I found God, I didn't realize they didn't all have the same experience until way later. I was like, why are you acting like that? Don't you know, like, didn't you see God? You know what I mean? And like, it's not. This is actually more like a near-death experience. I saw my whole life. I saw the things that I wished God was closing his eyes, but he wasn't. And it's not because he doesn't, it's because he's light. He actually is light. And the things that are dark in us, you know, they're not hidden. It's like there. It's like we are all the things that we've done and thought, and, you know, that's there. And it's just like, you know, the story of Adam and Eve. Like I'm totally naked. Everything I've ever done, thought, said, felt, and I was full of hatred. I was just, at that point in my life, I hated people. I was full of hatred. And God is love. And it is so terrifying to be full of hatred in front of love. It's like you just want to pull in and be like, I don't deserve to be here in front of this goodness. And and that's weird because, you know, there is a scripture. And so when I started, like, I was like, I don't know if this is what God this is, but it's Creator. I know he's light. I know he's love. And then, of course, it was at a church. And I was like, I don't trust anybody anyway, but I did experience God here. So how do you know that God says that? And they're like, what's in the Bible? Well, I'm going to read it for myself. So I start reading. And the book starts talking to me about the things that I experienced. like it was talking to me, like it was alive. And so that was weird. But one of the scriptures that I thought, I kept thinking about is this one that says that if you confess your sin, right? And I just recently, which I've not said this out loud to anybody before, but I just recently have, my family and I have converted to Orthodox Christianity, which is a really ancient Christian, like the first, they say, we believe we're the first ones, whatever, everybody has their story. But they look at sin as just, is what it is, and it's Greek Orthodox, so it's like, it misses the mark of love. So like wherever you miss that love, if you confess it and you say it out loud, it heals you. You say, I missed love here. I missed love, like, or this happened to me, or I did this, you know, that actually heals you, because what you're doing is because what keeps you away from light is hiding. And that's like the story of Adam and Eve, you know, he hid. And they would say salvation is, if you see God, are you going to hide? Are you going to come to the light? And so it's interesting because that's exactly what you're talking about, coming into the light every time you want to hide. You know, you want to isolate, you want to be in the dark, you don't, you know, and then the opposite is coming into the light. And that's the way you use the words. Mm-hmm. And so to me, I have experienced 100% that healing. I've been in AA meetings with, friends who've been in AA and as support and things. And the way they come into the light and the way the healing happens ripples through the room, through the people. They're like, wow, I can be in the light too. Wow, I can bring that up too. It's like the most profound thing. And it's just embarrassing when you go to church and people are just like wearing their mask, like, what are you doing? Like you go to AA or something, what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to promote that. I just felt like, and that healing place is, I don't think you're supposed to do that anyway, right? But that healing place is the light. And that's just, I've seen it firsthand. I've watched it work for me. Like it literally, like demons let go sometimes when you just say it out loud. Like they just, like it burns us, whatever. The light is really it. Yeah, that's all. Sorry.
That's so good. Were you talking about theosis? Like you're growing into God?
Well, that is part of.
I don't know if you're Eastern Orthodox. Is that the kind of Orthodox?
Yes.
Okay.
That is part of the theology for sure. I wouldn't say I'm.
I love.
I
love
that's
that.
one of those things I don't know how to speak about. It's very much a speechless. I'm speechless. No.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's beautiful. I'm really excited for you and your family on the Orthodox journey.
Thank you.
That's
My
cool.
husband is leading the thing. He's so alive, and I'm like, I feel like I'm in outer space, and I'm like, where's the ground? No, this is crazy. I don't know. Tense, but
it's cool.
It's quite the process to even open up about something so personal like that, right? So like when you've been, especially when you've been a public figure for as long as you have, it's like, I know there could be a lot of fear there. So thank you for opening up about that, because it's like, what are they going to think about me? And like, this isn't a religious event, right? So, but
my concern is I don't want to lead people into like the hell that I've experienced when I went in and I was like, what's truth? What's life? What's like, I'm lost. And also like idolatry. Like it's easy to just slip into like, well, maybe this is what I should, like you were talking about, like I give my heart so fully to things, but that's completely like imbalanced in this journey with Orthodox. It's like, yes, you are completely consumed, like, and you can, but to miss the mark, like, and point it at, say, a priest or say a saint or say a prayer or say a church or say a whatever, then you're lost again. You're like way lost, because like you'll get way off track. It has to be the light, right? So anyway,
I get pulled away from my spiritual part of me as well a lot, and you, Lacey, always bring me back in every time I talk to you. You always do. But I think it goes in waves, and anytime I really ask for a sign of some sort, I always get them.
Wow. Yeah, that's true. When we look, we find. It's true.
And it's incredible to just hear the openness that we've had here, but just to kind of circle the wagon here and start closing up, I have a very hard question for each and every single one of you to answer, and it's probably the hardest thing you'll answer all day. If you could send just one of your songs to someone struggling with suicidal thoughts, what song would you choose? And I know Taylor has her answer, and I'm not a musician either, so me and her can answer first because we don't have like a whole discography to think through. So Taylor, we'll start with you.
Okay, and I'm like the only one who's not a musician. I'm going to tell you too. So here's the first one, and I'll tell you a little. I think that this could be a powerful story. So about a year ago, when I was going through that hard time where I was like very suicidal, I started listening. I mean, Neck Deep has been one of my favorite bands for forever. I love them. I think they're amazing. And I really latched on to In Bloom, which is basically this song about how like, stop digging it up, just keep doing the work. Because I felt like I was doing the work. I mean, I'm a therapist. I'm always doing the emotional work of trying to feel better. But I felt like I was doing the work and I wasn't feeling any better. And I was like, you have to trust that you're doing it. Just stay in it. or you're never going to see it all in bloom. So I was like, okay, this song is going to be my song of the year. That's what I like to do every year, is like have a song of the year. And that was in January. And I did this photo shoot after my breakup that was like really powerful and fun and made me feel really good. And I printed out the pictures and I put the lyrics to In Bloom over the pictures. It's hanging right next to me. Some of them are hanging around right next to me. And that was, you know, just a song that I like used to help me through. And then like a month ago, I got to watch them play that song side stage at Sad Summerfest. And it was like, I couldn't even imagine making it one day at a time, much less getting to see my favorite band on stage with them and their set with my song of the year. I felt like, so listen to it. It's amazing. I love Neck Deep. And then I have to plug my homies, my fave humans who I saw this weekend. Lost in the Moment by We Came as Romans is one of just like such a good song. And if you can just live in this moment and not worry about the ones that have happened in the past and the ones that have happened in the future,
Man,
do it.
that's awesome.
Love We Car. Love APR.
Dude, I am also a fan of screamy music, but my song isn't really screamy for this. I feel like it's the first song that really touched on like suicidal ideation and such that I had ever heard, and it may or may not be performed on this live stream later, which is like got my heart like really full. But it's Never Too Late by 3 Days Grace, and just the way Adam and that band wrote that song and just delivered it was insane. Like, I can't really put it into words how special that song's been for me over the past probably like 15 years, which I sound so old thinking about saying that, but it's not actually the first time I've ever said that. 15 years. But yeah, that song has been, I know it's been healing for a lot of people, but for me especially. And the fact that it opens up a conversation, especially back in the early 2000s, that wasn't really being talked about. So I feel like it was very before its time, but also released at the right time, if that makes sense. So Never Too Late by 3 Days Grace. And then anything Lacey's ever touched is just a bop. So especially there's one that's not out yet with a certain person that we can't really talk about, but just know it's a bop. Just saying. Who wants to go next?
I would say The Soviet by Me Without You.
He said one of your songs.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, one of your songs. Me and Taylor aren't as talented as y'all.
Come on, Garrett. You are such a beautiful lyricist. I know you got a good one.
I wouldn't have wrote lyrics if it wasn't for Aaron and Me Without You. So I kind of go back to that a lot. I think I'm still emotional too because I was at their final show a few days ago. But of ours, I suppose I would. There's kind of a trilogy I did over the course of 8 years. It was called Depths 1, well, just Depths, and then Depths 2, and then Depths 3. And I guess I sort of was an ongoing conversation that I was having with myself over the years, kind of asking myself questions in the future and then responding to the past.
Wow.
And so I suppose I would maybe tell someone to check out the trilogy of the songs called Depths.
Okay, I just have to say, Garrett, that is so cool. What you just said about how you wouldn't be a lyricist without Aaron is like exactly why you need to share your pain. Because Aaron, you know, writing that song, The Soviet, writing music that you could relate to, then led you to write songs that people can relate to and like help them heal and support them. And it's just this catalyst you can't stop. So like, perfect. What a beautiful message.
It has been probably my favorite thing of music has been meeting other musicians who, in some level, were inspired by stuff. And Lacey, I know you get that a lot. It's one of the cool things about getting older and with your music from earlier and meeting people who now can inspire you. And it's not, there's not really a hierarchy. It's just sort of like we're helping each other up constantly. I had a friend named Keaton Pierce who died earlier this year. He was the singer of a band called Too Close to Touch. Absolutely incredible singer, and he hit me up a few years ago and said that he just been a Silent Planet fan, and he was starting his band. And then I watched his band, and his band wrote so much beautiful music. They had an album come out in 2016 where he was processing the loss of his little sister, and he helped so many people with his music. And he's not here anymore, but his music still helps me a lot.
Mixi? Can't hear you. Oh, you're on mute. Here. I'm gonna help you. For some reason you're muted and it won't let you unmute. Okay. Lacey, do you wanna go ahead?
I don't know the answer to that question. I'm sorry.
The basic answer could be all around me, but
Okay.
you know what? It's
Why
fine.
don't you just answer it?
In the Dark, Arise is really encouraging. I'm So
Samir,
Sick
for
is
sure.
really good, screamy.
Samir
So
writes really amazing. I wish Samir was on here to talk about his story, because he's been through so much, and he has a completely different perspective from me. And he's a great, Flyleaf, the songs people love so much, most of the lyrics were written by Samir. And again, his overcoming, when we write it in music, becomes our overcoming. Hey, Mixi.
I told you I always make Merritt do this stuff. I'm going to go because I know that Lacey's going to have something brilliant
Sure.
to end us all out.
Oh, she did. She
You
did.
did it? I missed
It
it?
was true.
I missed it?
I picked 4. She wouldn't pick one.
Oh my
I don't know.
God.
So I picked like 5.
I know. They're
And
all...
then when it comes to Silent Planet, The New Eternity is a banger. I think it's called Pansepticon is a really good one.
A Panopticon.
Panopticon. You see, there's the reason Garrett's so successful in what he does is because his words are so big that we all just assume that it's really good. And
That's right. I'm making it up. I just keep adding syllables, and no one bothers to Google it.
That's beautiful.
And then
Let's try that.
what's it called? Panic Room.
Also, if you just take a scroll on Garrett's Twitter, you'll have a laugh, and that'll make you feel better too.
Oh gosh, don't follow me on Twitter. I'm
His Twitter, its own
a
Garrett
complete
song.
idiot on Twitter.
Who is it? And one time I was following Morgan Freeman on Twitter, and everything he said was so profound, and then I realized it was a fan account, and then it was all dumb. I was like, this is all...
Oh, I was gonna say, I'm shocked Morgan Freeman's on Twitter.
I was like, man, he's so smart.
Like,
But then it was like, no.
I would be shocked if he was on Facebook, or MySpace. I mean,
Yeah.
I would think he uses carrier pigeons still or
But-
something.
But
He's so
you know,
wise. Not because he's wise.
but you know
you
what
know?
it taught me is that it does matter who it comes from. When someone else says it, you carry it differently in your brain than if somebody else says, you're like, well, that's, you kind of roll your eyes. But if you said it, I'll be like, wow, that's so deep. Wow.
I love it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
And Mixi, do you want to go?
So we pick a song of ours. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to go with Darkness just because obviously it's really personal and sentimental about getting through like rough times and being stronger every single time. It feels like it to me anyway, but I think Never Alone would be the one that I feel like I would go with, just because we're never alone, and I think even though we feel like it sometimes, we aren't, and we just have to reach out. That's it.
Yeah.
I want to say one more thing with what Mixi said earlier about emailing her. Just email me. She's like, that is so beautiful and powerful, and it really puts the honesty into everything you're saying. It's like, put your money where your mouth is. Here's my email. You know what I mean? It's like, I honestly feel like I have, I wish I could say that right now. I feel like I have so much. I feel like that I need to learn right now. I don't feel like a teacher right now, but even in those things, like when you get opportunities like this, it's really beautiful to realize we do have something to like share a little, you know what I mean? And the thing that I learned when my friend recently passed away, I remember thinking, you know, before I was really, I learned about boundaries. I had learned about boundaries before that. And before, you know, I was like, this is brilliant, right? Boundaries. New concept.
I haven't learned
And
about
like,
that yet.
Good in theory, but also like really
Yeah.
hard.
Work in progress.
well,
Yeah,
so like this
seriously.
person, right? I'm like, it was really vulnerable for us to like bring her into our life and go into her life and be like, you're a gift and you are our gift. You know what I mean? Like, and we're going to receive it, you know, and we're going to open our hearts to you and, you know, whatever. And the thing is, when you are called to walk with somebody and you know it, and you know that that's the time to open your heart, or that's the time to, like you just said, Mixi, you're like, just email me. Like, to be in that season is so beautiful. And so it's just freaking, I'm just so thankful for that, because what I learned from that is like, well, what's the worst that could happen? And it did. So then I'm like, that was awful. And you have one thing that one way to love where you don't know that you're going to be hurt so bad, so you just love, and then you're broken, and then you don't want to do it anymore. Or you have another way to love where you just know you're supposed to love, but you're not going to give your heart, so it's kind of like half there, half not, because whatever. And then you have the one where you know you're going to get broken. You know you could be broken, and you might really get broken. And you've walked through the pain of that, and you say, you're worth loving, no matter the pain it might bring, no matter the choices you make, you're worth loving. And it was like, that's exactly what it was like you were saying, like, I'll love you as long as I can. I'll hold on. Like, that was like the most powerful thing, because people, that's what I learned is, it's just very simple, but it's very like, I learned people are worth loving no matter the choices they make. And it's a great life to live. And, you know, we're talking about, we need, like when I'm struggling, I need somebody to listen to me or whatever. And that's true sometimes, but it helps me so much more when I'm like, let me just hug my kid. Let me just love the person in front of me. Let me just see how my husband's doing. Let me just make him, you know, like do something really loving and creative and give somebody something and like reach out. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? That's been really helpful. Just wanted to say that in. That was beautiful, inspiring when you said, this is my email.
I mean, it's not my cell phone, but still, you know it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I will.
And that's so true. Yeah. And Taylor, I know that y'all at Heart Support have been working on some really amazing resources for people to be able to reach out to the community at the Heart Support wall, as well as a new texting feature. So that's the only call to action that we're going to give on this whole live stream, because Heart Support has so many people that are well equipped to handle these situations and really want to talk with you, especially within the community, because there are other music fans. Like, this is a music centered organization and now branching out and for veterans as well. So Taylor, could you tell us a little bit about that, and if someone's struggling tonight, how they could receive help?
You guys, if you are hurting at all, whether you think your problems are big or small, the Heart Support community is here for you, and we have a forum, and all you have to do is text choose to live, 2 O's, don't forget, to 512-647-2871. 512-647-2871. I'm saying it one more time. 512-647-2871. And you can share anything that you're going through completely anonymously, and our community will respond with support. And here's the coolest thing is it's not just going to stop there, because we have so many resources, including community action groups on our Discord, where you can participate in a group of people who are trying to work towards healing and feeling better and have accountability towards that, and can watch our live streams, and you can go on our website and find lots of tips and tricks for all sorts of mental health struggles. But most importantly, we just want you to get support. So please, if you're struggling, Mixi, I love that you gave your email. I love that. And also, y'all, you can also do this too. So we can, because we have a whole community and a team. And Mixi, I don't want you to get overwhelmed.
They probably know
I
what
love you.
a little more, but
Right. And that's
But we are here. And send me a DM, take our compass test, do all the things. We want to support you. This is literally what we are made for, is for you, just you.
And as we wrap up, as Heart Support always likes to say, hold fast, we believe in you. I still can't get over how meaningful that conversation was for me personally, especially hearing from some of the biggest names in rock: Lacey Sturm, Mixi Demner, Taylor Palmby from Heart Support, and Garrett Russell. That conversation was very healing for myself, and I know it will be for you guys as well. And up next, we have a performance by a very dear friend of mine, Lacey Sturm. If you don't know Lacey, she used to front an amazing band called Flyleaf, and that's where she kind of rose to fame. And now she's a solo artist that goes under her name, Lacey Sturm. She'll be performing the song The Decree. But just to kind of shout her out, she's going to hate me for this, but she's the first female to ever come in #1 on the hard rock charts for Billboard, which is crazy amazing. And Mary, Flyleaf's imprint is so vast that you have a pretty cool and unique story about it yourself, right?
I do actually. I think it's a really powerful thing that Lacey has been faithful to keep sharing her story with the world and inspiring really a new generation of women who have entered rock and roll, and I'm just one of them. I have a very similar story to Lacey of sort of surviving planned suicide and growing up in just a lot of turmoil. And while I was in that place, I started first hearing Lacey's voice through Flyleaf when I was about 15 years old. And her voice was kind of like this light that led me through my own dark because she'd been through it right before me. And so it's such a precious thing to see her continue to share that light with the world and to get to kind of be empowered by it myself. And I know I'm one of thousands of people who has that exact same story because her voice is just that powerful.
Yeah. And the message that comes across in the music just screams choose to live all over it. Not just for the event. When you hear it, there's something graceful about it. And I think we all know why. It's just, she has that power about her, right? She's been gifted in that way. So without further ado, please help me welcome back Miss Lacey Sturm.
Drops of rain inside the bottom of a glass, till the world is gone from upside down to right side up again. 'Cause she believes till she can see. 5 long months looking at trees that seem like they are dead, black and twisted, broken still, full bloom inside her head. 'Cause she believes can see it, turning the pages, unlock these cages. Quiet days, they can hear this sound, and it's thrown in the earth
huge thank you again to Lacey for sharing her voice with us. I hope you enjoyed that performance as much as we did. Just such a powerhouse. We are going to keep this evening rolling with another incredibly special conversation that you get to be a fly on the wall for. We're about ready to welcome Spencer Chamberlain from Underoath, Mikey Carvajal from Islander, Austin Carlile from of Mice and Men formerly, and Shayley Bourget, formerly also of Mice and Men, and now of Dayshell. All of these musicians are people who have their own really powerful redemption stories, and the really cool thing about them and the things that they've overcome is often there's sort of this beautiful intersection of their stories. There are moments where they were able to show up for each other in community in the middle of some of their darkest places. And I think that is just a really powerful thing for us to have on center stage here because so much of our ability to choose to live comes from our ability to link arms with the people who are most important to us. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. Get ready to hear from Spencer, Mikey, Austin, and Shayley.
So with this segment, I'm joined by Spencer Chamberlain of Underoath and Slow Tide, Austin Carlile, Shayley Bourget, aka the one man behind Dayshell, as well as Mikey Carvajal of Islander. Welcome to the stream, guys.
Thanks for having us.
What's up? Yo.
Dude, I'm so pumped that each and every single one of you are here to really just shine a light on mental health, suicidal ideation, all of the things that people go through behind closed doors, but they don't really feel as confident to talk about it amongst community. That's really why we're here. The event's called Choose to Live because we want to encourage people to choose to live on a daily basis and just let them know that hope isn't too far off, and everyone here today has a super unique story of overcoming drug addiction, suicidal ideation, hating life, and more. And I'd love to just start off with each of you explaining a dark time that you've gone through and how you were able to get through it. And if we could start with Mikey, that'd be great.
Oh man, I was like, cool, I won't have to go first, and then I'm going first. I think for me, man, it's one of the ones that really comes to mind because I mean, there's more than one time in my life, obviously, where I've been depressed or had suicidal thoughts. But for me, when I was in college, and this is something I think a lot of people can relate to. It sounds dumb anytime somebody, you know, people, or at least people think it sounds dumb anytime somebody's in a relationship with a girl or a guy or whatever, and next thing you know, you get your heart broken, and you really, really do feel suicidal sometimes with that. It's like when you're out of that mode, you're out of that mode, but when you're in it, it feels like this thing that's not gonna ever fix. And when I was in college, I was dating a girl for a while, and she ended up breaking up with me. And there were other things that happened as well in my life, as far as just like not having, you know, an outlet at the time as far as like music or whatever. And I think that I had just kind of really stopped doing a lot of the things that I love. And I remember I realized I was suicidal when I started not only thinking about suicide, but I didn't want anybody to find out that I was suicidal at that moment. And that's when I started getting a little scared for myself, because I noticed how numb I was. I was in biology class, and I was sitting there writing all these things, my feelings out on a piece of paper, and I wrote about how I didn't feel like I'd never felt that way before. It wasn't the kind of thing where I was depressed and wanted some sympathy for it. It was the kind of thing where I was depressed and suicidal, and I didn't want anyone to know because I might go through with it. And I just sucked it up and told my mom. I've always been able to talk to my mom about stuff, which is awesome. And she talked me through a lot of things. And one of the crazy things that that she told me, that a lot of people might not, you know, think this is the best way to talk to somebody that's suicidal, but she told me that whenever she was like, so if you kill yourself, what after that? Like, what do you think the world will feel for you or whatever? She said people are going to continue going to work. People are going to continue getting hungry, and they're going to have to go eat. And this impact that, you know, you might be wanting to make on people, it would be gone. And she said you could make more of an impact on people, because she knew my heart. She knew I wanted to make an impact somehow. She said you can make an impact on people by sticking around. But she said that that impact wasn't going to be there for long for the other people. She said, of course, as my mom and whatever, she would never be able to get over that or anything. But she sat there and really listened to me through it and spoke to me about, you know, the what if you did kill yourself? Let's talk about that, and then let's talk about why you shouldn't, instead of just coming to me and being like, no, without any reason. She didn't just say, you're my son, I love you, so don't kill yourself. It was genuinely like, what's the purpose? What are you getting out of this? And do you realize that this feeling is for a moment, and that tomorrow comes with new opportunities, and there's more people in the world than this one girl or this one, you know, college program or whatever it was. She said that there's so many more opportunities and things that I could do in my life and people to meet. And I don't know. I hope that makes some sense. I don't know if I'm kind of rambling all over the place with it. I get nervous on camera. I always have, which is kind of weird being a lead singer of a band, because I don't get really nervous on stage, but I get nervous like anytime I'm sitting in front of a computer or a camera or whatever. But yeah, I just think that if somebody out there is dealing with a breakup or whatever, I just want you to know that it does get better, and it can get better. I'm married to my wife now, and we've been married 11 and a half years. And if I had never been heartbroken, I would have never met her, and things wouldn't be the way they are now.
Wow. Yeah.
So sometimes the things that we're going through, the pain that we're going through, is just actually like a really small, uncomfortable door that we're having to walk through to get to this really cool big open room. So
wow, that's amazing.
That's a really cool analogy.
It sounds like a lot of people in this chat or this talk can actually relate with being heartbroken and getting suicidal. So there's a common denominator there. But
I applaud you for talking about that, like about the, you know, in my scenario and people I've been around, it's always like a really deep, like, you know, rooted problem, right. You know, and just being able to be like something as simple as a heartbreak, which everyone's going to go through. Everyone probably already has, or they will, you know, in the whoever's listening or watching this, and like, it's something as simple as that someone could feel suicidal and not feel shame to talk about it. I think that's, especially for men, I think that's, I applaud you for opening up about that, because I haven't never heard anyone, and I know it happens because we've all probably felt it, but I've never actually heard anyone admit that, and that's beautiful.
Thanks, bro. Yeah,
I'd hug you.
I just think that a lot of people go through, you know, heartbreak, and again, like you said, like a lot of men, it's like the world tells us to put on this persona of toughness, or like we can't be hurt or heartbroken or whatever, and it's actually most of my friends that have been through heartbreak, I don't know if we've handled as well as all the girls in our lives. So I don't know.
Right.
And Spencer, do you want to go next?
Yeah, you
sure. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think a lot like Mikey here, that you know, it's not one particular time or like event. For people who don't know a lot about me, I was a drug addict for about 12 years. Some years worse than other years. And you know, like, there's probably a million stories during that time, but I'm going to tell a story that happened after, which I don't think a lot of people, you know, I've talked to and read a lot about other addicts that have felt suicidal when you're in the thick of it and all this stuff, but I want to tell a story about something that's a little bit different. Mine, the last time that I was there, it was after the fact, which is super weird, because people think, you know, oh, once you get sober, or, you know, you get off whatever you were on, or you change your lifestyle, that it's going to get better. And it does get better, but it's not necessarily always 100% easy. It's not like problem's fixed, you know, I'm not sad anymore, I'm not suicidal anymore, or whatever. You know, it was wild, because I was you know, like I got off drugs on my own because I wanted to, and I think that's a really hard place to get to, and I can't believe I made it that far. Like 12 years is a long time to be using anything, and getting there and like, you know, being able to take those steps, because anyone that tried to get me there before, you know, it never works. You know, you're hiding it. You're lying to yourself. You're lying to your friends. Like, you're hiding it, and that's how I was. And the last time that I was like really suicidal was, I was just having these like complete breakdowns after I guess I've been abusing my body for so long. I just couldn't balance my highs and lows. So you know, the darkest of times were when Underoath was broken up, and I met people like Mikey and some of you guys here. I was in a pretty bad place, but like as Underoath was getting back together, we were starting to write our first record back together. So I've got like my passion back, and like things are going well, and I'm like off drugs for the first time and actually staying off of them. And I just kept having these, like, I would just cry, you know, or just like completely melt down over something simple. Sometimes it was something, you know, all my feelings really did get hurt, or something. It was just something stupid and simple. And I just kept having these really dark suicidal, like I can't do this, you know, like I can't stay sober because my feelings are too real, or whatever that is, whatever that was causing me to like break down like that. Like I didn't want to feel that, which is probably why I was using drugs for so long, because that's such like a terrible feeling to just not be able to control. And the only way I got out of it is because, you know, some of the guys in my band knew what I was going through, and some didn't for a long time, and knew at the end, but not to the extent of Aaron, who's our drummer, has been my best friend since I was in my teens. And I just told him I needed help, and he said, "I've been waiting for you to say that for a decade."
Wow.
And he got me help. Literally the next day, I was in counseling for like substance abuse counseling, and that was really the only thing that could bridge the gap for me. You know, like I got, you know, I don't recommend everyone take the path. I think everyone's path is different with this stuff, and I don't have any answers. Like, I talk to kids all the time on the road, and I try to share, not like preach at them about, oh, I know because I've been through it. But I don't think that's really the case. It's such a tricky thing. I managed to get off drugs without help, but I couldn't handle it after. So amidst all these, like, I mean, it was months of these really weird breakdowns, and me attacking my friends and like saying things I probably didn't mean, and just like super emotional, you know, like I was just all over the place. It was just a mess. And it was like almost like I was worse off drugs, and I thought about getting back on drugs. You know, it was like, I just couldn't balance. And when I said that I think I need help, Aaron, that was the first time Aaron was like, I got you. And the next day I had a place to go and someone to talk to, and without a friend like that, you know, I don't think I'd be here today. So yeah, I think being able to talk to someone that you really trust, you know, and he knew a lot about what I was going through pretty much the whole time, but you know, there was times where he couldn't really do much about it because I wasn't allowing anyone to help me. You know, it's like, but when I finally got to the point where I was just like, dude, I can't fucking do anything. Like, I'm just such a mess. I can't have a normal life. I need help, and he got me help, and yeah, that's changed everything for me.
Wow. Dude, I like that you said that.
I like how you talked about.
Sorry, you go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mikey. I think we're about to say the
maybe,
same
maybe
thing.
not. I was just gonna say I like that you said that you don't have all the answers, because I think a lot of times when people make it through something or whatever, it's like people expect them to have some kind of formula or whatever, and it's like, well, no, it's just there was somebody there to help pick me up and keep me going a lot of times, and like
that's the thing that really pissed me off when, you know, there was many years, you know, 12 years is a long time, and there was many times where I tried and made attempts to straighten things out and clean myself up, and those, you know, and I'm not like a finger pointer or I blame this or blame that, but like the scenarios I would run into with people like that had all the answers, you know, like I grew up, like Underoath was a Christian band for a long time, and like a lot of the scenarios that we were in were people that were X this, X that, but they had all the answers and they were talking at you and not necessarily with you and listening with you. And those things were just a huge turnoff for me. And I don't think that has to be true for everyone, though. And I think sometimes people do need to be talked to in different ways. Like, we're all different, right? But like for me, it just like, it kind of just pushed me further away. I guess my journey is just different than other people's, but and I'm not bitter about any of it. I'm very happy to be here and thankful, but I try to use my own self as an example. Like, I think about it a lot of times, like especially like when I go on stage, like I don't have like a thing that I rehearse to say. I don't have things that are like, oh, I know what to say when someone asks me this. I didn't even think about what I was going to say when I got on this thing tonight. But I try to think about my experiences and share those, because I do think there's people that need the opposite of me, and I think there's a lot of people that probably could benefit from hearing what I have to say, because maybe they're in the similar situation as me, which is why I think these things are cool, because everyone's got a different story and a different path. And the more that we share our outcomes and our struggles, the easier it is for the younger generation, or the older, maybe people listening are older than us, anyone who's going down the road, that they can hear that they're not alone. And I think that's the biggest thing, is feeling like you're not alone in whatever you're going through. And I think that's music, right? That's why we're all so gravitated towards music, is growing up. I know for me, that was like the thing. I felt every song that I connected to was about me, when no one else got me, and that's why we're all here. That's why we're all sitting here. That's why we're all, why we've all met or crossed paths,
I like how you said, just you can't rehearse what to say, but just to be real about your situation and what happened with you. And when you're going through something as real as depression or suicidal tendencies, nothing except for a real answer or a real scenario or a real what someone has gone through is going to help, because you can see right through it, especially if if you get it's okay, I understand. It's like, you don't understand. And that being real is so important. And I never knew that about you, Spencer. That's crazy that you had Aaron there and he said, I've been waiting, I've been waiting for you. And then actually taking the steps to do that. Yep.
And the cool thing about it is, I don't want to speak for someone else, but like, he never had drug problems, but he's had his share of other problems with anxiety and different things in his life. And I've had to be that for him. Even when I was fucked up, I had to help him and vice versa. And I think that's just being like real with each other. That was like a good thing for me, is to be around someone who wasn't struggling the way that I was struggling, but struggling in their own way. And I don't know if that's like, I guess misery likes company, and that's a bad thing. But I know that as we were growing up as teens into our early 20s, I could talk to him more, because he had his own shit going on that I didn't struggle with. So I could kind of be like a stability there of like, no, dude, you got this. Like, don't worry about it, blah, 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 blah. And then when I'm breaking down over drugs, he's someone who's never even tried drugs. So he's could like, he's like sober and like, dude, you could, whatever, you can lean on me, and like, I got you, like, it was really good to have, and I know not everyone has that, but in my scenario, I got to be honest with that, is that, Aaron wasn't, it wasn't like talking to some like counselor or, or like a professional or a pastor or a parent. He was a peer and equal and super fucked up too, just in a different way. So
your friend.
Yeah, a real friend. So we could help each other figure stuff out, which was obviously a lifesaver.
Or at least deal with it together and know that you have someone else. Like you said, I don't want to speak for someone else, but I don't want to speak for you, but Shay and I kind of had something similar of, we were both going through our own separate stuff, whether it be this or that, and we had that rebound off of each other. We were able to be in it together, even though we were miserable, even though we felt lonely, and then we knew we could go to one another, you know. And then I think that's now why all these years later, why we still have a relationship, because it wasn't phony, you know. It was not always good, it was not always pretty, but it was, you know, it was real. And then that's what brought us to today, you know. And that's like, this guy had the key to my house today, and I was gone, and he, you know, let himself in, and our puppy went to the bathroom on him. And, you know, I trust him at my house, and I've known him since I was, you know, 22, so 12 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Shoot.
Wow.
Man, that's deep, and thank you for sharing that, Spencer. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's something for everybody.
Yeah, man.
I honestly
That's dope.
believe that. And Shayley, do you want to go next?
Sure, why not? Well, mine actually Austin was a part of. There's obviously, like the other one said, like it's not, for some people it's not just one specific time it happens. It's a gradual thing. But for me, the big one was I was on tour with the Mice and Men, struggling with my alcoholism. Little backstory of why I became an alcoholic is, well, one, it's basically what I grew up with. You know, my dad drinking a lot, you know, so it's kind of all I knew. But I got a back injury that changed my life, like overnight, and I live in severe pain, like still to this day. And the only way to get rid of it was to drink. And then with the pain came the lack of confidence, which also brought insecurities, and getting on stage and performing became daunting and terrifying. So drinking was my cure. That was it. That was my drug of choice. I've never done any other drug other than that, and I pounded it down more than anyone should. You know, I had a handle under my pillow. I'd wake up at 3 a.m, take 4 swigs, pass out, start over throughout the day, you know. So it was a nightmare, and what it did to my mind was worse than the pain was doing to my mind. And you know, one evening we had a off day in, what was it, Florida?
Yep.
Yeah, by Disneyland. And
Orlando.
yeah, we were by the resort, and I was having a good day. You know, when you're drunk is good. And then the come down happens, and I just got in my head, and you know, I've been struggling this for a long time. They know what's going on. I'm hanging on by a thread. You know,
everybody left, huh? I stayed at the hotel with you.
Yeah. You know, I don't know. It was just really, it was getting really bad, so I decided to call a hotline, and you know, completely wasted out of my mind. Somehow they got the information of where I was at, and they found me. And Austin comes running out. Nobody knows what's going on, mind you. I'm just doing all this. I don't want anybody to know, obviously. I just wanted to get help. I just didn't know what it was, because I really felt at that time, I was like, I can't live like this. If I'm in severe pain, I hate what I love now. I don't even know who I am. You know, I can't even remember yesterday. What is this life, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so they got me. Austin comes running out. He doesn't know what's going on. He starts fighting them pretty much. He gets arrested. I'm like, oh,
tackled
Jesus.
a police officer.
Oh my god.
I'm like, oh, great. This was supposed to be my special day.
This was supposed to be my special.
So they end up taking me away, or they were about to not take me away, and then they asked me a trick question. They're like, so you're not going to kill yourself or anything? I said, no, I just need some help, and you guys came here and made me chill. They're like, well, if you were to kill yourself, what would you do? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I guess I'd jump off that building. They're like, come with us. I'm like, great. Now I'm going to the Cuckoo Lounge. So I went to the Cuckoo Lounge for a couple days and got out, flew home, and that was the start of like going in the right direction. But you know, it took me years and years still after that to fully get through the suicidal thoughts. And you know, the first thing is ditching the alcohol. You know, that is not going to help. Any type of substance that makes you happy and forces you to not work on those tools you need to cope with these feelings is your enemy, you know, whether you have a fun time or not. Like what Spencer was saying, you know, when you did kick the drugs, you know, it got worse emotionally. And, you know, what I have to say to that, I think a lot of it has to do with, you know, your drug addiction suppressing all your emotions for years. Mm-hmm. Everything that you didn't want to feel, you push it down, and then you stop. And where are all those emotions going to go? They're going to resurface, and you can't handle them because you haven't built those tools. So yeah, when I quit drinking as well, it got even harder, because what the hell, the thing that you usually run to get through these times, you can't have. But you make a promise with yourself, like I did, like Spencer did. I just woke up one day and I was like, I am done. I'm tired of
same
embarrassing myself. I'm tired of ruining relationships, and I should be an example. I'm on tour with all these people that look up to me at the time, and they're younger than me, and they're looking at, and I don't take this egotistical, but they're looking at their leader as a phony, like I can't be that guy. That just killed me inside. So I'm like, you know what? I'm done with this. I don't care how long it's going to take. I don't care how bad the pain in my back's going to be. I'd rather die with my pride than a piece of crap drunk, or something, But yeah, there's my story, guys.
Dude, that story about Austin tackling a police officer, goodness. Sorry, that took me off guard.
Our old tour manager came to my house last year and went swimming, and we were just chatting, and he reminded me of that, and I kind of had forgotten about it because I was drunk as well. I was like Spencer was saying, Aaron was going through his own stuff. I was an alcoholic. Well, I wasn't an alcoholic. I just drank every day. You're
an alcoholic.
Yeah, I know. So that reminded me of that story, and I watching you go through that, and having to be the bad guy at one point in time was the hardest thing I've ever done. Because I have, when you left, I tried to get a hold of parents and things, and I don't want to dive into that story, but it was hard for me because here's my best friend. Here's the only reason the band is good for that first record. I mean, it's not saying anything, but my voice is Spencer. I do a vocal fry, the same tone the whole album, and Shayley has his voice. And yeah, I had cool lyrics in my story because I was suicidal and depressed, and I still battle. Depression is still something that I have to consciously battle, and I have to give it to God, or it's going to get me. And
It was a tough time, dude.
it was hard.
I mean, I get it. Like, that's what I was saying, the guilt, just letting all your boys down over and over. I mean, that shame that hung on me led me to be more suicidal,
And that's the thing, is that the things that we use to cope always make what we're trying to cope with worse.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And they go back and forth, and it's like this endless cycle. Like for mine, like I relate to Spencer, your story, Mikey, your story of heartbreak. I have journals from when I was 16 that I was listening to too much Underoath and Hidden in Plain View, and every girl that broke up with me,
Copeland?
Huh? Copeland.
Yeah, you got it.
But it gets to that point where you write about it, or you do little cuts on your arm for attention to actually getting there. And I had a little bit of all of y'all's story, and mine too was my depression came from having to look in the mirror and having to know that I was who I was, and I didn't want to be that person, and that I was always looking for the next step. I said that today. I was always looking towards the future instead of living in the present moment, because I didn't want to be in the present moment because I was so depressed and sad. I had all these coping mechanisms, and at first it was sex, and then it was alcohol, marijuana, and then it became opioids, really heavy opioids, like Oxycontin, the worst, the hardest kind of thing like that, because I have something called Marfan syndrome, so I'm in pain daily. But I use that as an excuse to just constantly get these medicines, and I would use them how I was supposed to, and some. And when you do that, like Shayley said, Spencer said, you guys hit it on nail on the head, is your brain doesn't know how to cope without it. And then, so like Spencer, when you stopped, it got worse. And like, it's like withdrawals. Like during the last of my Cement album, I was stopping the Oxycontin and I was having withdrawals while we were recording an album. So I'd be throwing up all night, shaking, sweating. I'd be going to therapy and and then going to the studio and recording. And one time I couldn't even get to the studio because I was driving back from physical therapy and my withdrawals were so bad that I couldn't drive. And I had to call Valentino, our drummer, and him and Alan had to come get me. And it's like, I was doing that while, you know, my guitar player, Alan, did what a good friend should do. He said, oh, we shouldn't even be here right now. We shouldn't even be recording. And he left. He straight flew from Jersey, went back. Wow. It's like, well, like he needs a break, you know, and it's always when someone does something hard or that other people don't like or what you don't want to hear, that helps so much, especially when it's the right thing.
Tough love sometimes. Yeah.
Tough love. And it's like, you know, I can't love you and not give you the truth, and I can't give you the truth without doing it in love either. And it's crazy, that cycle, because it just keeps going on and on and on. You just try to fill yourself up with all these different things that just leave you empty, and then you got to fill yourself up again. Like you said, waking up at 3 a.m. in the morning, or, you know, another chick or another girlfriend, or, you know, whatever it may be.
I've noticed, I don't mean to cut you off at all, but I've just noticed, like what you just said about somebody helping you and going home because you needed a break. Something that I feel like every single one of us has said is that there was somebody that was there for us. And that's something I would want to reiterate to anybody listening, is that find that person that you can trust to talk to. And if you don't have one, find one. I don't know how to go about that exactly. I don't have all the answers, but
dude, there's plenty of like
totally
therapists and any sort. Yeah, like if you don't have someone, the way that we're sharing these stories, you know, it's rare because we're all, you know, in bands. You know, that's not necessarily everyone's life. You know, you're stuck. You get close to the people even if you don't want to. But like to you know, someone who's just going to school every day or whatever, it's like if you don't have someone to talk to, there are those people like in my scenario, I had Aaron the whole time, but what really got me there was it was a complete stranger, you know, when I went and got real.
That's a good point, dude. I wasn't even thinking like that because I was thinking we all knew these people, but yes. That's totally.
We do, but we all had someone, you know, like I wouldn't have been able to get to that if I didn't have someone to talk to about getting there. But I think that's the stigma that needs to be lifted from all this. It's like not being scared to ask for help. And that's something that I was saying on stage for a long time until I got my feelings hurt from it's a whole other story. But like I was sharing on the whole last album cycle, not necessarily, like I said, I didn't rehearse anything, so a lot of times I'd say the wrong things, but I tried to make it clear that, like, I mean, yes, I'm up here, and it's because I worked my whole life for this, not because I'm better than anyone that's in the crowd. You know, there's probably tons of people out in the crowd that are more talented than I am. I just busted my ass to get here and never gave up. So if a normal person like me can be up here, and a normal person like me can just ask for help, anyone can, because I think sometimes people put us on such a pedestal. Everyone on this panel right now has been put there to where it's like, if you buy your own shit and you act like you're the man, that, you know, that doesn't really help the outcome. You know, I think, yes, we all put on that a persona on stage, and you command an audience, and you doing your thing, but like, I try to break it down at least one point in every night to just be like, we're just normal dudes, you know, we're just regular ass people, no better than anyone in this room, and if we can do it, you can do it. You know, like anyone could ask for help and get there and get through whatever they're in right now. Whatever it is right now, it can get better. Like, you just gotta ask for it. You know, you gotta ask for help. If that's your friend, if that's your mom, if that's your neighbor, if that's a complete stranger walking down the road, it's just a conversation. And that conversation is fucking scary, But once you
Yeah.
get in it, it's better than any drug you've ever done because it takes away so much of that weight. You know, like there's just too much weight for a person to individually hold. And when you share that burden with someone, it almost feels like they've taken it from you. And all they're doing is listening. And
it might be easier for somebody too, just to, you know, if you call a hotline or something like a local therapist or whatever, them not knowing you might be easier because you can kind of step out. I know for me, and again, I'm in the smallest band on this whole thing, but it was easier for me in
Hey, I'm not even in a band, bro.
it was easier for me to find somebody, you know, that had never heard of us or anything like that, so I could completely share my story aside from, you know, them saying like, oh, what do you do for work? It's like, I like that question, and it's easier to speak to somebody sometimes when they don't know every detail of your life. So maybe it is anybody listening, you know, talk to somebody that you don't know, and they can hear you from an outsider's perspective on things, maybe without judging you in that way.
Right? Yeah, because I couldn't even. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Spencer.
From what you were just saying, Mikey, I couldn't even imagine going to my parents. You know, you said was it your mom or was it your dad? It was your mom. Yeah, like that. So anyone who feels opposite, like that's where I could never do that. Like that would have crushed me. You know, like, I don't think I could have possibly done it.
That fear of doing it, and that fear of asking someone. It is what so many times keeps people, because, you know, like
it's embarrassing
when someone actually goes through and takes their life. It's the people you never would expect. It's the people that smile, the people that look like they have it together, or have, you know, all the things that the world says is going to make you happy, and it comes out of nowhere. And right now, within this past 2 weeks since school started, we've had at least a dozen stories of kids that have taken their lives already because the school year started. Because there's that juggle of summer's over and now you're back with all these kids. You know, you're getting bullied, you're getting this, or, you know, whatever it is. And so you have that fear of isolation, and then also that fear of opening up, and then that fear of being wanted and loved and accepted. And so many kids, and me even, you have this fear of being accepted that you don't accept anyone yourself, and you push everyone away. And then that's just leads to that vicious cycle again. And when you're young, man, like Spencer, you were talking about when you were younger, I snuck into one of your shows when I was a sophomore in high school in Denver, Colorado. And you were wearing a purple hoodie. And I snuck in, and it was like the early November, you guys, Hopes Fall. But I snuck in, and I did that because some of the guys on the line went to my school, and they picked on me all the time. And I didn't want them to see me there. And then, but all these years later, one of their names is Jordan, and one of their names is Corey. They broke 2 of my ribs. I got in a fight. But all these years later, we played in Vesco Field, so Colorado when I was young, and then in Vesco Field, and I see those dudes in the crowd, and they're watching. And so it brings out that what you said, that we're just normal dudes. We are, but we worked for it. And that space you're living in right now, that's not permanent. Taking your life, like Mikey's mom said, that's permanent. You're done. That's it. There's no other option. There's no other chance. And, you know, when I was a teenager, I thought I knew everything. I thought I had it all together. When I was early 20s, I thought I had everything. Early 30s, I thought I had everything. Then once I got married, whoa, I know nothing. Once I had kids, whoa, I know nothing. And it's like the more you grow and the older you get, and I know it sounds cliche, but it's like you see that, like I also talk about myself, like what an ignorant little kid. Like what a dummy, you know. And I wish someone would have come alongside me like you, Spencer, or my mom would have, you know, said something like that, Mikey, but I kept it in, and I kept it in, and then my mom died. And when my mom died, I was a junior in high school, and I was, you know, like kind of like Spencer was saying, I was raised in church, you know, all this stuff. I was a, you know, good little Christian kid. My mom died. I ran out of the hospital and I said the F word for the first time to God.
Yeah.
And I went berserk. The next whole week I went berserk. And then I saw that this is real depression, but it was masked in anger and fear. And underneath all of that was just hurt and just wanting someone to be there and someone to come alongside of me.
Wow. Wow. That's, man.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's it's heavy stuff, and you're right though. It's like taking your own life. You know, it doesn't fix anything.
Mm-mm.
You know, all you're gonna do is leave a hole in the people that care for you, and there's people that don't even know you that care for you. You know, especially in people like our situation, it's like taking your own life fixes nothing. It just hurts the others the way that you are hurting. You know, like you're gonna hurt the people that love you.
Yeah.
As hard as you're hurting right now. So like asking for help and sticking around to, you know, like I couldn't even imagine, like I have a daughter now, and you're talking about the kids going to school and all this stuff, and I'm sitting here worried about like what's it going to be like when she goes to school? Like, will she get bullied? Will she go through this? But I'm so fucking glad that I'm here, that where hopefully I can be someone that she can talk to about it, you know, because by me being honest about all this stuff, am I going to be a little embarrassed when she watches or hears some of this stuff later in life? Maybe, and that's okay. But because I think I'd rather be embarrassed and help one person than hold it in and help nobody. You know.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think anyone listening that's dealing with depression or suicidal thoughts or addiction is like, you don't have to be a singer in a band to help other people by getting help. You could be helping your next door neighbor. You can help your cousin. You can help just friends in your circle.
Yeah.
You know, by talking to them, or like when, you know, like we get to write songs about it, and that's our outlet, and sing about it, and share our stories with people on stuff like this and on stages and so on and so forth. But like, you don't, just because you're not doing that doesn't mean anything. Like,
yeah, my mom's not in a band
too. Being a fan of this music, yeah, my mom's not in a band. Neither is mine. Being a fan of music like ours, you know, rock music, real music, music from the heart. Like, we wrote about what we were going through. We wrote about how we were feeling. And that's how we find those people that are going through the same things.
Right.
You know, like that I have a song about my mom, and that's like the band's, you know, top song on Spotify to this day. And it's like that situation, you know, was used all these years later for me to connect with people that deal with the exact same thing. And I'm not on tour, not, you know, this and that. And especially like for people listening, like, go to a show, go get it out, go try to yell as loud as Mikey and jump off his same kind of stuff that he does. Don't try to yell.
Be careful with your knees, though. I've learned that.
But dude,
yeah, they're gone.
Same, mine are too.
You find people that can relate, and sometimes that is bad. Don't listen to Slipknot if you have anger issues. I learned that the hard way. You know, don't listen to depressing music if you're depressed. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. But being able to share with someone that understands is so beneficial, even if it's briefly, because like Spencer said, that weight is lifted.
I think I wanted to add, I think it's important too, you know, you guys were talking about where to get help. You know, there's some people prefer someone not knowing who they are at all to start over. Some people want somebody they know. But I think the other side of the coin is, you know, don't give up on the people you love, the people that aren't struggling with suicidal thoughts or depression or whatnot. The people that are healthy, don't give up on those people. And I say this why, because I kind of feel a sense of guilt that hangs over me. When I first started music, I was in this band called Covette, just some kids from Lake Elsinore, California, trying to make it big, trying to be the next Underoath, some would say. You know, he was a troubled person as we grew up, and then life took us in different directions. I joined a Mice and Men and then on to Dayshell. Long story short, he ended up taking his own life a few years ago. And when it happened, I didn't really know how to feel because we haven't really kept in contact for years. But as time went on in these past few years, it'll cross my mind, and I kind of do feel guilty because I knew deep down inside something bad was going to happen to him sometimes because of where his head was at. And I personally got sick of it and just didn't want anything to do with him anymore. And so this kind of like guilt that hangs over me subtly, like I said, don't give up on the ones you love. Like, you got to be there for them. I know there's certain situations and circumstances where you're in an abusive relationship and you just got to get out of it. You don't care what his mental health is because now your mental health is in jeopardy. I understand those situations, but if it's your homie, like, I know he's going to keep messing up. He's going to keep messing up, but just be there for him. Don't enable him, but be there for him forever, man. Because one day, when everybody gives up on him, to me, this is how it goes. When everyone quits on an addict, it goes one of two ways. One way, they kill themselves. The second way, they finally understand that they need to make change now because they've lost everything. For me, that was kind of like where I was at. I pretty much lost it all. Left of Mice and Men, started my new band, tried that, still being an alcoholic, and I lost it, basically almost lost it all. And overnight, made that change. I knew it was going to be a hard road. Even to this day, depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, they don't go nowhere. They're always going to be there. They're always going to be in the back of your mind. It's just a matter of building a healthy routine and a goal. My big end goal is to leave this planet a better place, however that is, or just leave a legacy to make people happy, whether it's through my music or just my company, But yeah, just wanted to add that.
I like how you said that it could go one way or another, and how, especially when people realize that people have had to turn away, because of what they're going through, or because of, like, say, addiction. It's those times, like, even if you can't be around the person or whatever, that's still something that they reach out, you reach back.
Yeah.
And it takes a big man to admit those things, and I think it takes a bigger man to be there for people, even people that he doesn't like or don't like you, because of the lasting thing that is, taking your life. Like, if someone was to come, people have come to me that have slandered me, and I'm there because the truth is the truth. And it's like, I see you're hurting, and I know it's cliche, but hurting people hurt people. And it's like, hurting people hurt other people or hurt themselves. And that's what made me think of that when you said it could go both ways. My cousins, Ryan and Ross, my uncle was a raging alcoholic. He got out of the hospital after a liver, like, transfusion or something. And we found him dead in a grocery store parking lot with a bottle the day he got out of the hospital. And then one of my cousins, therefore be imitators. He said, I never want to drink ever, because of my dad. And he's in the Air Force now. He has like 13 kids, a beautiful wife. He became an ordained pastor. He does all these things. And he doesn't drink because of his dad, because he saw that example his dad set. And then my other cousin was an alcoholic early because his dad, he said he blamed it on his dad. Well, my dad drinks and I get the genes from my dad. So he kind of let his dad take the responsibility. And there comes a time when you got to take responsibility for you. You're not a little boy. And he blamed it on his dad, and he ended up becoming involved with drugs, heroin, the wrong crowd. And it was a few Christmases back, he passed out in the snow outside, and he lost half of his foot from frostbite because he was on heroin and drunk. And then a few weeks later, he was found dead in his apartment. and they don't know if it was a suicide or a involved with the wrong people. And but that was two people, two completely separate directions because of their dad, because of that figure. And that example is what so many kids are lacking, whether it be a father figure, a good teacher, a parent, whatever it is. They can see a bad parent. They could see a bad teacher. A lot of kids nowadays they live in bad, broken homes. And homes right now are wrecked. But just because your home is wrecked, that doesn't mean look at your home and then just kind of slouch back and be like, this is what I have to expect from my life. Like, no, take that and say, I want to do better than that because they suck. Because I know exactly what that's like too. And I think a lot of kids need that encouragement because homes today are just so, you see it, and it goes without saying, but that example is you are not your parent in the good way and a bad way. You are you. You're uniquely created. You're created for a purpose. You're created for a reason. You're created for exactly where you are right now. Don't take that.
Something I agree with everything you're saying, because something that helped me a lot with things that I may have been upset at with my family or my dad or whatever growing up. The older I've gotten and I've had to make hard decisions or mistakes or whatever, I started realizing that, now that I'm the age that my dad was when I remember him when I was little or whatever, it's like I can relabel it and be like, wow, like he was a human being that was coming home from rough days at work or whatever, and he was making, whether it be a mistake or, something good, it was like I had to realize he was a human being that was trying the best he could sometimes, and I needed to forgive him for the things that I thought that were just like purposeful or whatever. And I'm like, now I look at it and I'm like, wow, you were dealing with your own mental health. You were dealing with your own struggles at work that you weren't going to tell some 6-year-old kid about. And it's like my mindset kind of changed into, wow, like if I'm struggling like this and I don't even have a kid, I can't imagine how hard it must have been being a parent. And I've had to relabel a lot of that and do a lot of forgiving. So
100%.
Not saying everything,
stories shared. And with all of these stories shared tonight, if there were one thing that you could leave people with to help them choose to live tonight, what would that be? We'll start with you, Mikey.
Oh man, me again, starting it out. There's an opportunity tomorrow. I don't know, what that is, and we're not promised tomorrow in the sense of, I could go get in my car and get ice cream tonight and die on the way there or back. But I just want people to know that when we choose to stick around, we choose a different possibility for things to get better. And if we don't stick around, then again, like Spencer was saying earlier, there is no chance for things to get better. It's just, it's not worth it. Even though being alive is hard, I believe it's worth it.
Yeah, I can second that with if I were to leave one thing here for, is that take it one day at a time. It's like like Shay said, Austin said, I think everyone said it. It's like, it doesn't necessarily just go away. Like the depression, dark thoughts and struggles. There's been days, 7 years off, substance abuse that you're like, fuck this, like I want to get high, and you got to fight it. But I think when I used to front load everything of like, well, if I stop now, I'm at age whatever, and I'll be in a good spot by this age, like I always failed. So I think, when I made that decision, it was just like Shay said, is like, I just woke up one day and he's like, you know what? I'm sick of who I am right now. Whatever this is, I don't like. Whatever I feel right now, I'm done with it. I got into the end of my road, and it wasn't going to be suicide that day. It was going to be, I want to feel better. and it started with a little thing like eating better and joining a gym and, you know, getting out of a toxic relationship and being single for a while and just working on me and trying to enjoy little things and taking it one little step at a time, like one day at a time, like not, you know, thinking that your depression or your anxiety or your addictions are going to be fixed like that. You know,
it's a struggle every day. You're right. It's a struggle even after
yeah.
you're doing better. It's like you have to wake up and keep making those decisions. You're right.
Right. But it's so worth it. it's so worth it in many ways. Like, I've had the best times of my life since, and even in the hard, dark times, it's like it's so worth it. Like now I'm looking like last week my daughter turned 1, and if you would have told me 2 years ago that I would ever have a kid, I would have laughed at you. You know, and 5 years before that, you know, and it's the best. It's true love. It's like the best thing that's ever happened, and there's so many other countless things that every day can bring these opportunities of just better times. I don't know. It sounds cheesy, but yeah, I think taking stuff just one day at a time, man. It's like that's the best you can do, and it's just work on right now.
Austin.
What's your words of wisdom?
What?
Words of wisdom?
Words of wisdom. Mikey, you have a song in the darkness. For me personally, like Spencer said, you don't want someone preaching at you. You want someone talking to you and listening to you and coming alongside of you. For me, like, you know, I was raised in church, and then I hated God. I hated him. I want nothing to do with him. And I also didn't want anything to do with him because I saw lots of bad examples of Jesus. You know, I saw these people that claimed to be about Jesus, but they didn't live like that. And that pissed me off. Like, that still makes me very upset. And that goes back to, like, how I said about, you know, my cousins and their dad. You don't look to other people and say, that's what that is. You know, that's exactly what it looks like. And if I do this, I'm going to be just like that. Because that person doesn't have it all together. You know, and you know, a true Christian should have a sign around their neck that says under construction anyways. Because, you know, like Mikey, you and I, like, I have to give all of these things we're talking about to God, because that depression can just come, slides back in, or I get let down or something happens and I have to give it to him. And then, like Spencer said, I never wanted to be married, ever. I never wanted kids. I didn't even think I could have kids that don't have my syndrome. But I'm so thankful that I didn't just look at other Christians and say, that's them, I don't want to be like them. I experienced it on my own. And when I experienced it on my own, it led me to where I am now in life. It led me to my wife. It led me to my girls. And just like Spencer said, like, I have never had this much joy in my entire life. As, you know, singing in front of 50,000 people and touring with, you know, Linkin Park and doing all these things. I have joy just from watching my daughter say, yellow, yellow. And it's like, that comes because I know all of the things that I went through to get there. And that's what, just like Shay said, I want to leave the world a better place, but I have to do that by example. And I think that so many people do look up to singers, musicians, etc. And if we are in a position like that, you could be a Christian, atheist, you could be whatever you want, but you're an example, and that's a responsibility. It's like Peter Parker, like with great power comes great responsibility. And I think this newer generation of artists coming up need to really take that seriously, because those kids listening take them seriously. And Spencer, you hit it on the head. We are just normal dudes. We are no better than you. And I think it takes a lot of humility. We need a lot more humility in men like that, to be like, I'm no better than you. and I struggle too. So let's go. Let's go. Stop staying there. Don't sit there and saturate in it and saturate in the sadness and saturate in the people that are toxic, that want to just, oh, you're sad or this, and they just want to pour onto it. No, let's go.
And Shay?
I lost audio.
I did too, but I think.
Yeah, I heard every single thing.
Yeah, it was great.
Okay.
And Shay?
Want Shay to go?
I can't hear anything. Yeah, I'll go. Well, I guess what I would have to say is, obviously I agree with everything everyone's saying. But I don't know if there's some situations where you're not enough to make the change, you know? And I say this because it was kind of like, that kind of helped me as well in my journey of getting better mental health is, you know, I took a look at my nephews. One time they walked in, and I was going through one of my alcohol poisoning binge things, you know, seizures, throwing up, just not a good time. And they came in, and I was obviously just all whacked out. And I yelled at them to get out because I just didn't want to see anything. But I could see in their faces, I don't know how to explain it, but they just seemed so disappointed in me, so hurt by that. And then that was one of the reasons, like, if I'm not going to do it for myself, because I'm weak, I'm going to do it for these kids that need an uncle, that need somebody to look up to, an example in this screwed up world we live in, you know, and they think I'm a superhero. So what am I now? I'm a nothing. So that was a huge thing. So if it's not for you, it's for yourself. You know, surrender yourself to the truth that it is. You're messed up. You're hurting. You're not just hurting yourself. You're hurting everyone else by hurting. You know, take that step. You know, take it day by day, like you guys said. Make those steps, and you know, it's not an easy road. It's not supposed to be. That's how you build. That's how you get strong. You know, you don't just lift weights and get buff. You gotta work out every day.
That's true.
It's the same thing with the mind.
Yep.
Good point.
True that.
Hell yeah.
When you go through trials, it creates perseverance in you and endurance in you, and then that creates character, and then when your character gets built, it creates hope.
Yeah.
And there's hope that doesn't put us to shame, and that hope is worth searching for. And I love that all four of you guys, three of you guys, you all, if you could have just, yeah, awesome.
Say that again?
You could be a pastor if you,
This face? I don't think so.
oh, come on, yeah, let's see it.
My vocabulary is pretty bad. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Thought Hulk Hogan could bring some words of wisdom.
If you were to end this with someone struggling tonight, if you could communicate one song from your discography to them to help them through the hard time they're experiencing, what would it be?
I know what we should choose together.
Oh,
Product.
really? What?
Product.
Oh man, well there's like all of our songs are about depression and suicide.
It's sad. We're just emo boys.
That's an impossible question to answer. You really threw us a curveball here.
There you go.
Which you said, product of a murderer, right?
Yeah, because you know the bridge. This is the way I wanted to live.
So the song we have is it's called product of a murderer, and it's a banger. It's on my favorite album, and it's product of a murder. You stole everything from me.
Yeah.
You're talking about poison in your veins, numbing yourself, this never-ending cycle. You hate yourself because of all these reasons. But then the bridge, which is where the song changes, is this.
This is the way I wanted to live.
I want to live.
But you know, I was scared of the world, praying it all would go away.
But you know that I was scared of the world, praying it all would go away.
It's like what would you call that line? Like a false representation of yourself?
No, that was a truth for me.
No,
This is the way I wanted to live.
Oh no, yeah, because you didn't want to. You thought you wanted to live that way.
And I was scared of the world, and I was praying it all go away, but it doesn't go away. So if you remove yourself from that equation, you just go away.
Yep.
Wow.
Something like that.
I was hoping
Mikey?
you start singing.
For me, I've got two that just came to mind. I'll do it real quick. But the song "What Do You Got to Lose"? It's about suicide, and the chorus is "Take back the years that you've wasted." Somebody commented one time to us and said, "Hey, like, you can't take years back." And I said, "Yeah, but you can redeem them. Look at Darth Vader." And it's the idea that, I know that you can't go back in time, but you can redeem now, and you can say, I'm gonna start fresh. And the other one is our new single. Actually, the video drops tomorrow. I'm not trying to plug it right now, I promise. But it's
All for it.
it's a song we did called "It's Not Easy Being Human," featuring Lacey Sturm, and it just keeps saying it's not easy being human. And on the bridge, she just keeps saying, "Have grace and mercy on me," because I feel like the world we live in right now doesn't really give people room to mess up and come back for it. We just cancel people, and I just know for me, if my mom had canceled me, she wouldn't have been able to talk to me about sticking around. So I don't think we can really, encourage people to stick around unless we're willing to not cancel them as well. So, because canceling them is basically just telling them, we're just going to go ahead and commit suicide for you. We're going to kill you. And it's like, I don't want to be like that. I want to have grace and mercy on people and believe they can change. Not believe that, like going deeper. Sorry, I'm a true crime kind of guy. So I watch a lot of crazy stories and stuff. And, I believe people deserve certain things for their actions. They have consequences, and justice needs to prevail. But I think that if we don't also forgive people along with that, we're not giving true justice. So we need to forgive people so that we can be okay with ourselves.
And how are we supposed to forgive ourselves if we can't forgive others, or forgive others if we can't forgive ourselves? And that's a big
Yep.
that's a whole thing right there.
Yeah. How about you, Spencer?
Oh man, I don't even know. I don't know where to start. Like all the songs are so dark, and they're like, most of my songs I'm like admitting that I'm not where I want to be, and I'm not perfect. I'm like kind of spilling out in the darkest of places. Like there's a song on our new record called "I'm Pretty Sure I'm Out of Luck and Have No Friends," and like the song title kind of says it all. Like it was a moment when I was like close to death, and the song takes place, and as long as the song is like, there's like the blackout, taking too much drugs and waking up alone. Like the beginning of the song, I'm like calling 911 and scared and hanging up because I don't want to, in the situation. And I've never written a song that the lyrics take place, like the song is like 4 minutes long, and the story isn't not like over the span of like most songs I write about. It's like a long, thing of like how I've been feeling for a while. And that song's actually like supposed to take place as long as the song is. And when the vocals drop out and there's all these weird sounds, it's actually vocoders that me and Aaron used. It's kind of simulating what it felt like to black out, of like close to overdose kind of feeling. And like there's not really much hope in that song. But it's just the truth of like being there, like living through it and coming out the other end of being like, I don't want to ever be there again. So I write a song about it. So if someone's ever there, they know that they're not the only one that's kind of crossed that bridge. And there's a song called "A Fault Line, A Fault of Mine" that was on Lost in the Sound of Separation.
Sound of Separation.
Oh,
yeah.
Love that album.
And that I was that was like the pre-Underoath breakup, probably one of the darker times until the breakup. That was a really hard year. We were really like rifted as a band and fighting a lot, not getting along. And that song is basically just waving a white flag of defeat within yourself, of like the lyrics are pretty dark, but at the end I'm saying this is defeat because I'm like surrendering to myself. I'm like I'm admitting that I was lying about all the shit that I've been telling people about being better and being this leader, of the spiritual leader even, and like doing all this stuff. of like heading in the right direction, but really I wasn't. And that song is just kind of like a surrender. The only song I really have that's got more of a positive outlook is my solo stuff that's not even really out yet. I've got one song out called Neck High, and literally the chorus says, "Lord, I know I'll get by even when it's neck high." And when I write for my solo stuff, I wanted to use a different part of my brain. You know, I wanted to use something that was like lyrically, you know, Underoath is like the dark stuff that I go through, and Slow Tide is more of like I don't know, just the other side of my brain. I don't know how to explain it, but I've written more songs about like.
I was gonna say, Spencer, I don't mean to cut you off. I was just gonna say, throughout those dark songs, I feel like those songs alone just let people know that they're not alone. Like that's what I feel like Korn's lyrics do as well. Like there's things that make people know it's like, wow, there's somebody else going through it, and they're still here. So that's a big point right there. So.
Yeah, I think that's the unspoken thing about Underoath, that like every song is kind of that supposed to be like, because that's how I felt growing up, you know, really relating to Nirvana and Korn and Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, all the stuff that we grew up, Deftones, all that stuff, you know, a lot of those songs you felt like it was about you. I kind of said that earlier, is that's like hearing that someone else is in that shitty place, and obviously they've sang about it and they're out the other end of it, or at least long enough to get the song out.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I think that's Underoath's thing has always been writing the stuff that a lot of times I was too scared to tell my friends.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
and
good
I
stuff.
think that is it's the therapeutic thing about music, and that's why we're lucky, you know. And I that's why I like doing these panels and stuff that talks about mental health, is because not everyone is as lucky as me, because I get to have that. You know, like we said earlier, we all worked our ass off to get where we are, but like to be able to have that release, not everyone gets that release. So doing stuff like this and being honest and sharing your story does a lot for people that can't write a song about it and sing it in front of people, because like that to me is therapy. Every night on stage is therapy. Every song I write in the studio is therapy. You know, going to therapy is therapy. But I think about the people that don't have that. You know, like, what about the kid that can't afford to go to therapy? What about the kid that's not a songwriter, or you know, all that stuff is like, I try to talk about this stuff as many different places as I can, because I know those kids. You know, we meet them all the time.
You are those. We are those kids.
Yeah.
I never knew that song in Lost in the Sound of Separation was about that, Spencer. And that,
take a look at it again now. It's pretty.
That's awesome.
You know, like there's a line "dance around my head" about cleaning up myself and all that stuff. Like I'm sitting there thinking about it, and then just admitting that I was a liar, and that we're pretty much not where we're supposed to be. You know, and just surrendering. You know. But
you admitting it was kind of farce, and you admitting that you weren't about that life. That's, speaks massively about you and character, and it speaks massively about where your heart is or wants to be or can be, especially for other people, because a lot of people like me, I said I talked the talk, but I didn't walk the walk. Oh Jesus, I was a phony, and that I made a bad example, and I turned people away. And then here you are, everybody gave Underoath such a hard time for, their new album is blah, blah. Well, if you would have listened, I was being honest, I told you guys here, and that's huge. And,
that's a whole other story within itself. I mean, like a lot of the drug stuff, and I don't think that religion's a bad thing, or Christianity. I don't bash Christianity. I get a lot of shit online about I bash religion and I bash that. I just sharing my truth and my story, and I think it's everyone's entitled to believe what they want to believe in their find what works for them. I don't think Jesus was a bad person, but I do think religion has a lot of bad tendencies to affect people in a negative way, because I'm a living example of one of them. Like, it literally turned me into a drug addict because I had nowhere else to go. I closeted all my feelings because I wasn't allowed to talk about it, because if we talked about the way we were feeling, you're out of the band, because we're a Christian band. At the time, it was a lot of pressure, and pressure turns into isolation, and isolation is like, I'm finding a way to escape, which was getting high by myself. because there's a lot of pressure. But, fast forward, 10 years now, like, would I take it back? No, because it, like you said, trials. It did make me the character that I am, and I came out the other side. Like, when I started that band, I didn't have a path to lead anyone down. I didn't know who I was, and I went through all this terrible stuff that I barely survived, but I came out the other end a decent man that I believe wants the best for people and can share my story and talk to people, and like I wouldn't change any of it. Like, I'm so glad that I'm here, and I'm glad that I went through all the shit, even though it was terrible when I was going through it. And like, yeah, I was bitter and mad a lot at the church and the religious people, quote unquote. But then now
I am
later,
too, don't worry.
Yeah, and then later in life, I'm like, but that's okay too. Those are just people, and like, and I think that it's the best thing for some people and the worst for others, and it just is what it is. And I think you got to find what works well for you, and I think that's okay.
That conversation is one of those moments that you have to pinch yourself after having a conversation like that, to think that somehow or another, Spencer from Underoath, Mikey from Islander, Austin and Shayley, both formerly of Mice and Men, now Shayley's in Dayshell, we all got to come together and have that conversation. Like, how many forces can you fit into one conversation, nor the less the previous one? Like, this is an insane night, and I think a lot of people are going to be encouraged by this stuff.
I totally agree. I feel like this is just a perfect storm of insight and community and rock and roll, which is the best kind of perfect storm, really.
I love that insight and rock and roll. It's phenomenal that we get to introduce this next artist. He was the OG lead singer for 3 Days Grace, which put out a monumental song for its time, maybe even before its time, but I think it was right on time. As we were just talking about before we started recording this, like, Mary, this song, like Never Too Late, that Adam put out with 3 Days Grace, actually got censored because it was like very early on in talking about suicide prevention and mental health.
Absolutely. Yeah, this was back in the era where a lot of these conversations around mental health were still very taboo. It was in the MySpace days, where mostly those conversations were restricted to a few of us who were really kind of underground about it. So this song was so bold at the time that actually the line "End Your Life" was censored from most radio play because it was considered to be too edgy to even play. So this is a guy who has been writing music that talks about these subjects since before it was okay to talk about these subjects. And that's just such an incredibly powerful kind of voice to have as a part of this evening.
It's insane to think about the fact that, like, the song Never Too Late that we were just referring to, Adam's like willingness to open that conversation way back in, I'm assuming, the early 2000s, paved the way for Trevor Talks to exist today, for Choose to Live to exist today. Like, all of this stuff is as a result of musicians like Adam, like Lacey, like Garrett, like every single person that's been on this live stream so far. It's insane to think about. And I honestly can't believe we're getting ready to announce this next person. And I don't feel like I'm good enough to do it, so I'm going to let you do it.
Oh man, what an honor. I feel like I carry this with a lot of gratitude. I am thrilled, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome Adam Gontier of Saint Asonia and 3 Days Grace.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Thank you so much for having me. So happy to be here today. This is amazing, absolutely incredible, and thank you so much for having me and allowing me to be a part of this. I'm gonna play a couple songs here real quick for you, and I just wanted to let everybody know that this whole thing, this Choose to Live is, it's very important to me. I've been through some really tough things in my life, and I can honestly say that there were a couple times when I was questioning whether I wanted to be here anymore, and whether I wanted to continue living. And thankfully, I battled out of that. I talked to some people, and I sort of talked about my problems with some people, and I got out of the situation that I was in. And I'm very, very lucky and grateful that I'm here. And I'm grateful that I decided to talk to somebody and just, not hold everything in, because that was the biggest thing for me. So, it's just a little bit about my situation. I've been through the toughest of times, for me. And I was able to get out, and I'm just grateful to be here and grateful to be alive. And these songs are sort of a reflection, I think, of that and what I've gone through. I tend to always write songs about situations that I've been through, and things that hit home with me. So here they are, a couple ones that hopefully you know them, and if you don't, you will now. All right. It's time to take a stand, save our lives. I'm sick of burying all my feelings in isolation. I'm done with absorbing all the beatings. Where's the salvation? We've been drowning for far too long. It's time to take a stand and save our lives. Rise before we fall. There's no second chance. It's do or die. Rise above it all. I felt the wearying sense of failure. Corroboration. I've traded everything with a traitor. Dissociation. We've been drowning for far too long. It's time to take a stand and save our lives. Rise before we fall. There's no more second chance. Let's do or die. Rise above it all. It's time to take a stand, save our lives. Rise before we fall. There's no more second chance. Let's do or die. Rise above it all. It's time to take a stand and save our lives, save our souls. And there's no more second chance. It's do or die. Rise above them all. It's time to take a stand and save our lives. Rise before we fall. There's no more don't belong. Who would have guessed it? I will not leave alone everything that I own to make you feel like it's not too late. It's never too late. Even if I say it'll be alright, still I hear you say you want to end your life. Now and again we try to just stay alive. Baby, we're turning around, 'cause it's not too late. It's never too late. No one will ever see this side reflected. And if there's something wrong, who would have guessed it? And I have left alone everything that I own to make you feel like it's not too late. It's never too late. Even if I say it'll be alright, still I hear you say you want to end your life. Now and again we try to just stay alive. Baby, we're turning around, 'cause it's not too late. It's never too late. The world we knew won't come back. The time we've lost we can't get back. The life we had won't be ours again. No, no. This road will never be what I expected. And if I don't belong, even if I say it'll be alright, still I hear you say you want to end your life. Now and again we try to just stay alive. Baby, we're turning around, 'cause it's not too late. It's never too late. Baby, we're turning around, 'cause it's not too late. It's never too late. It's not too late. It's never too late. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for having me. Adam Gontier here, signing off. Choose to live.
Are you
Just give me
okay
a
over
sec.
there, Trevor?
No, no,
Oh, okay.
no. I'm just kidding. But that was such an amazing performance, and we can't thank Adam enough for being a part of this. Fun fact, one of my favorite musicians of all time. So, again, Adam, thank you so much for being a part of this.
Yeah, and while Trevor continues to recover from the emotions that he is currently experiencing, I would love to take this moment to point you guys to some resources. We have all of these in the description of the video so that you can reference them and go to the URLs, but we just wanted to shout out Heart Support and Beneath the Skin and Death to Life, Youth of the Nation Foundation, and the Whosoevers. Every single one of these incredible organizations has real practical resources that they have available to you for free that can support you if you're in a place where you're struggling, whether it's a moment of crisis or whether it's just realizing that maybe you could use a little bit of hope, you could use a little encouragement. Each of these organizations is here for you to offer that.
Yeah, and especially like we're also going to have this in the link or the link in the description below for Heart Support's tech service. So everything for that is in the description below. Taylor talked about it a little bit earlier in that conversation. And leading into this next conversation, I feel like we're just so privileged and like being able to be a part of this event as a whole, right? Because we have so many people that come from different walks of life, different faiths. This isn't a religious event. This is strictly everyone coming together to have a conversation around suicide prevention, around mental health, and opening the door for people to hear their heroes in music talk about these things that are so real to millions of people across the globe. Choose to Live is not a rock star event. This is strictly people coming from all walks of life, coming together under one banner to tell people that there is always a reason to choose to live. And this next segment is our final segment of the night, which leads into an amazing performance by Disciple. So stay tuned for that. But this next segment features Sonny Sandoval of the band P.O.D., Brian Head Welch of Korn, and Chris Kael of Five Finger Death Punch. And I actually pulled in a very dear friend of mine, Clayton Jennings, who is one of the best storytellers that I've ever met in my life. If you've never heard of him, he's a spoken word artist, and he's best known for his poetry. Some of the familiar songs that he has done are Please Don't Kill Yourself and Dear Anxiety. So he is more than like capable to be part of this event. Like, I can't believe we were able to lock him down for this. Such a big name, and the fact that he was open to host this conversation for us is just mind-boggling to me.
I totally agree with that. And I think it's so well said, Trevor, that this is just this beautiful coming together of different backgrounds and different stories, really. And with that said, I think you really are going to be blown away by the stories that you're about to hear a piece of. So without further ado, get ready to have your minds blown.
Man, I feel like it's just it's almost like a waiting game, you know, because everything does get better. And when you're in the thick of the dark moment, like the lies infiltrate your mind thinking that this is how life is going to be. But if you just hold on and get to the other side and wait and work on getting out and work on talking to people, like that's one of the biggest things to me is like communicating and getting all of your thoughts out. And it's like if you keep everything that you're going through in the black hole, then it's going to grow bigger and your imagination is going to make it like become this huge monster. But if you talk about it, it releases it and brings it into the light. And that's where healing comes in, because we have brothers, we have sisters, we have a lot of people that care. And so we have to remember we're never alone, you know?
Everything is temporary. Everything. Be it the good, be it the bad, it's all temporary. So when you're in the bad, know it's going to get better. When you're in the good, be grateful that the good is there at that point, because it's going to go away and it's going to turn into something else. So all things are temporary. I know that I have dealt with depression, suicidal ideation, drugs, alcohol. That's how I was coping with those feelings back in the day. And to be on the other side of it, I mean, even as recently as like, I don't know, maybe August of 2020, I think it was, during the pandemic, you know, all of us around the world were going through tough times. And I found myself going through a breakup at that point as well. Didn't realize that I had some attachment issues that I got to look at that point. But as Brian said, those cracks make you stronger. And yeah, man, I spent 3 days on the couch just trying to go for it, trying to get the guts. And that's me from Five Finger Death Punch. We got a new album out today. Things are awesome. And those demons can still get into the lives and the heads of anyone. It doesn't matter what walk of life, what you do for a living, how much money you got, how little one you got. It does not matter. It's all here. And after that, getting back into sobriety and whatnot, then really diving into stoicism. There's one thing that stuck with me quite a bit, was that there is no good, there is no bad. It only becomes either once it gets in your head. So it's all perspective. If you can figure out a way to train your brain to flip and have different perspectives and get out of it. I found that when I was going through my thing in 2020, I had forgotten about all the love that surrounded me because I was focused on the one person that wasn't giving me the love that I thought I wanted from that person at that point. And now, having gotten away and worked through those stressors and cracks in the veneer, I am a much stronger person today. And you were talking about obligation. This is a perfect example for I'm big, strong, tough dude. Don't look like I would be sad at all, but I'm also an emotional artist as well. That's where the art comes from. So it's nice to have that outlet for to release the pressure of the valves and get that stuff out. But with the platform that we have and the support that we have with the fans, I know that it's bigger than music. It's bigger than hard rock. It's bigger than heavy metal. There's a message to be shared, and that's that things always get better, just like Mr. Welch said there. There was a couple of instrumental moments. One was I was liking weird shit on Twitter at that point, and my ex-wife, who I just made amends with probably a month before that as part of the step work that I do, step 9, making amends. I just made amends with my ex-wife, and we were becoming friends again, and she saw me liking stuff on Twitter. So friends paying attention, even just a weird liked tweets, just being aware, oh, something's off. And she reached out to my friend Greg, who's the guy who drove me to rehab originally. I was like, have you talked to Chris in a while? I said, no, I haven't talked to him today. What's going on? She goes, reach out. And yeah, that was the deepest, darkest part of the depression for me during the pandemic, post-breakup. And he came over, just talked to me for maybe 10 minutes. Didn't take any time at all. He lives pretty close, got in his truck, came right over. And that was just enough for me to, just enough time to allow the pause between stimulus and reaction. Greg coming over, my ex-wife Natalie reaching out to me, that gave me the pause where, okay, it's not that bad. What's going on? And that's when I really started digging deep and doing the introspection and really just working on the inside. All of this other stuff is symptoms of something going on the inside.
Wow.
Covering up, not being able to deal with this stuff. All that's just symptoms of that. So I had to dig deep, do a lot of introspection, and as bad as the pandemic was, I found the silver lining in that and really did some deep work, some shadow work. I got emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally fit over the break, and happy to be here to be able to share my story with all you guys going through the same thing as well. We love the fans. We love each one of you guys in this room. And you are not alone.
Yeah. So, Chris, does that go with what I was saying earlier about how you isolate and your brain goes in overtime with negative stuff, and then it builds it bigger than it really is? Is that like a statement that's true? That it builds the right on. And Clayton, you've been through that. You know that well. And so,
yeah, man. I mean, just hearing Chris share that, I get it, because I think the devil wants to take us to a place of isolation, because isolation equates with annihilation. And there's strength in numbers, so if he can get you by yourself, then the voices get louder, the discouragement is louder. It's hard to break out of that trap of all the negativity that can roll around in your head. And then, I think all 4 of us share something in common where we're creatives. And so, with being a creative, your imagination is probably at a different level than most individuals. And with that can take you down good paths, or it can take you down really dark paths at the same time. So it's something that you have to harness. And when you're away from people and you're not able to lock shields with people and do life with people, or you feel like you need to be away from everything and everyone, that can be dangerous too. And so, man, I feel for you, Chris, because I think that the pandemic, as many people died from the virus, think of all the people who died because they were fighting the darkness all by themselves and they didn't have anybody. And that's pretty sad to think about, man.
And people do become obsessed with the idea that they have nobody.
Yeah.
Calm yourself, breathe. When you're thinking that there is somebody there, that if you do something that is permanent, it's going to fuck up their mental space their headspace because they love you. There's at least one out there. You might have to like get rid of the obsession of all the dark thoughts to be able to kind of like kick back and see that, but you're never completely alone. Never. Anybody on this earth, you are not completely alone. You may not have all the friends that you want, but you got the ones that you need.
I mean, the people respond, you know what I mean? But the powers that be, you know, that you have to fit a certain kind of cookie cutter format, you know what I mean? Like, there's only certain bands that will say stuff, but a lot of times that might not be the friendly thing to say, which fits a format, you know what I mean, that sells music or sells records. But it is those artists, you know, like these guys here that are true to themselves, that we care about what we say, you know what I mean? I mean, we've all been censored in so many shapes, ways, forms, you know. But like you said, we are living in I think in a day where people are recognizing that they need to talk about these things, even if it is scary, you know, or maybe not as conservative, you know, or it doesn't necessarily agree with or is popular with what's going on. But we need to talk about these things, you know. So I think we've done a lot of songs that, you know, are probably more relevant even today, maybe 20 years later, you know, but people are finally starting to talk about things like suicide and depression and, you know, whatever, pornography, you know what I mean, mental health, child abuse. You know, there's a lot of stuff that people are finally saying we need to talk about these things and bring it to the forefront. I think, you know, I kind of caught on the faith at an early age, just in my circumstances and stuff. So, you know, I don't have the same stories as Brian and Chris. You know, I mean, I didn't. I think they were just living their life, and they fell upon their circumstances. You know what I mean? And with rock and roll comes a lot of opportunities to put yourself in some dark places. You know, but these are choices that we make. You know, so you know, I'm by far perfect, and I've made plenty of mistakes. But I think just having a mentality that you know, that I do care what happens to people. I do want the positive things in life, you know. I've always kind of had that at the forefront of my mind. Like, even if I'm gonna push the edge a little bit, I'm not gonna go overboard, you know what I mean? Like, I was always just aware of that kind of stuff. And, you know, it's just maybe I just had some tools on my belt that said, hey man, you know, don't cross this line, or don't go down this road, you know what I mean? Because it's gonna lead here or there, you know. But also experience takes us down those roads as well, you know. So I've just, you know, I've always kind of been on my guard, especially with this world. But like Chris said, I think of things in the eternal, you know. And Chris said, you know, this life is temporary. And to me, I believe that this life is temporary. So my heart and my mind focuses on the eternal, you know. And so we enjoy everything that we can out of this world and today. But we also know that this life is it is temporary.
Chris, what kind of things are you doing? Like, I forget, did you write a book about your journey? I know you've been sharing it a lot.
Yeah, I haven't written the book just yet, but during the pandemic, when I was going through all that stuff, I used the downtime and songwriting as a therapeutic purge. I personally wrote like 14 songs over the break, and it was just like a vomit of all the stuff that I've been holding in. Brian, you were talking about the small things, holding those in. Those little small things grow and grow and grow and explode. The worst things that have ever happened to me were things that never actually happened. It's all stuff that I was like, the worst. It's never that bad. Never that
so
bad.
true.
And
So true.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we get in our heads, and like, you know, the obsession happens. That happens to me with if I were to ever introduce drugs or alcohol, I'm gonna get obsessed. I want to do that. Bass playing, it worked for me, thankfully, but that same obsession was driving. So it's a matter of where you decide to put that obsession, what you decide to obsess about, what you're going to water and give sunlight and allow that to grow. Whatever you do, anytime you put those things onto anything, it's going to grow, you know? So The antidote for me was really just doing the big introspective work for me. Again, all the other stuff is symptoms of something else going on inside. So through therapy, see therapists once a week. Even while I'm out here on the road, I still do Zoom calls with her once a week. I got a supportive sober circle. Meet with those guys. I just got off them maybe 3 hours ago, a Zoom meeting there. So I stay close to friends with shared experiences and shared strengths as well. And something that everyone can do. This was a huge turning point for me. We were out on tour, and we had a sober coach out on the road with us. And I was having breakfast with him one day, and I was just like in this terrible mood, just, mad, really wearing it on my sleeve. And he's like, "What's wrong with you?" I was like, "Nothing." He goes, "It's all over your face. Tell me what's going on." And I was like, "Well, I was going through a divorce at that point." And I was like, "Yeah, I got a message from my wife as soon as I woke up." Then I got on Facebook and I got all mad. He goes, hold on. I'm going to stop you right here. And this has changed my entire perspective. First hour of the day, no phone. I don't pick up my phone at all. I can get triggered too easy. I can start off angry. If I get angry, I got to pull myself down. So I would much rather start off from a place of gratitude.
Smart.
So
yeah.
Every day, I write out 10 brand new things that I'm grateful for. It started off as 5, and then someone else suggested going 10. So every single day, starting off my day right now, the gratitude list of 10 unique things each day. And then I share it with other friends that, I don't know, I got some people that were going through some family stuff, giving those guys an opportunity to read that and hopefully lift their spirits. So, and other addicts that I'm in groups with and whatnot, just kind of sharing that word every day. And that's really, I've been working more on gratitude lists for those in the circle than the book these days, but it'll definitely come. Yeah.
Bro,
that's awesome, dude.
Do you write it down with like a real pen or a phone? Oh wait, you're off your phone, so you have to write it. Okay, hold on.
I do that on my computer on notes.
Okay, because I'm like, who uses a pen in real life? But dude, I'm going to do that. What you're saying right now, because I wake up in a fog sometimes, and I go, honestly,
that's great,
dude, it's brilliant. I'm going to start doing that, especially on the road. I'm going to do that.
It's great. Yeah,
I think I saw that.
And I'll share mine with you too. That way you can we can share that.
That'd be awesome.
Those are great. Those are great tools, man. I think I want to say I saw on Jacoby from Pop Roach's Instagram the other day that he had written 10 things that he was grateful to, and he was starting to post it. So it's those steps that you take. And I know that he, Jacoby's sober and he still goes through his stuff, and those are routines that we need. You know what I mean? Even for me, like Chris said, man, I love listening to like mellow music in the morning, whether it's kind of worship tunes or just mellow music, just to kind of set your head right. Like no one's going to go and just throw heavy metal like on, right? As soon as they wake up, that gets the brain going, you know what I mean? But yeah, but just I always like to say that, just to be still, just to be quiet and kind of put your day in perspective. But all those tools are beautiful, man.
And it's all stuff that was shared with me that I'm happy to share with everybody else.
Yeah.
I was gonna tell you one thing that's helped me. I'm a couple months in right now into sobriety off of prescription pills that took me down a really dark road. And Brian knows a lot on my story, and I've shared it with my followers through spoken word poetry and things like that. But for a long time, I was known as the person that was trying to help people with mental health, and I have a piece called "Please Don't Kill Yourself" that went viral. But then I found myself a couple years later, attempting to take my own life, and I thought that was, so hypocritical that I became the person that doing the very thing I was trying to help people come out of. But prescription pills, it really took me down a dark road, and I lost touch with myself. And now being sober minded, I keep hearing this theme of just sobriety and being sober minded helps so much. But that whole thing you just said, Sonny, of being still, Scripture says, "Be still and know that I am God." It says, "Meditate on the Word day and night."
Yeah.
And I know that we see meditation as, we tie it in like with Eastern religion and things like that. But I've got this routine now, and I haven't missed one day since early March of working out every morning, cold shower, it just kind of shocks my system. Reading the word, prayer, but then, you know, growing up in Indiana is like really in a really conservative church bubble. I would have never thought meditation would be something that, you know, would be of any use or even be okay. You're like almost taught against these things, but just meditating, doing breath work,
heck yeah,
man, it's helped me so much just to be still and to be present. And I really sense that during those times I can sense the leading of the Lord in my life. And I think just the more you can be present, the better. It's helped me, certainly.
Yeah, it's how you define that word too, bro. You know, I mean, people they define it a certain way, and then they put it in a whole different light, and it's ridiculous. But that's the thing is, man, I was talking about this stuff. Chris said the same thing, even seeing and having therapy and stuff. Like most of us in our culture, even as men, you know, and I mean, even with Chris, he's so big, tough, and strong. Why would he ever do that, you know? Or we're so we're so powerful. Like we can't even ask for directions, let alone, you know, mental things going on. So it's I think that's huge, and it is important that people keep talking about it, because I think as men we do hold so much stuff in when we should be talking like this. We should be honest. We should be vulnerable, and it's okay to say, "Hey, I'm not so strong at this," you know, or even, "Hey, dude, I'm weak at this," you know. I have strengths and I have weaknesses too, but you know, I'm not embarrassed by it. Like none of us are perfect, and so you know, being here together, talking about it, we help each other. I mean, I tend to touch on it a lot, you know what I mean, without being so like, hey, this song is about suicide or whatever. But I tend to, you know, I desire to speak life into a lot of our songs and lyrics. But so with that being said, even one of our most popular songs is called Alive, you know, and that's and the lyrics are so straightforward, and it speaks for itself, you know what I mean? It's about being grateful. You know, not taking this life for granted, and wanting to be here. You know, it is a choice. We've said this throughout this interview. We put ourselves in these dark places, especially creatives. You know, we overthink a lot of things, or we think of them in 1,000 different ways, and you know, sometimes you can take some wrong turns, and you really just end up battling a lot of your own thoughts in your own head, and then like Brian had said, you know, add drugs and alcohol on top of that, you know, it just everything gets way out of whack. But it really is a choice of saying, dude, I do want to live today. I do want to experience, you know, the joy, the love that that I have with my friends, my family. You know, there are a lot more beautiful things around me than there are negative things. And so, you know, it's just deciding every day that I choose to see these things. I choose to be around these things. And then gradually we grow to see what we can handle in this life. And we can see the signs of, hey, I'm not going to go down this road. I'm not going to go down this road. And you tend to just have your guard up on certain things, and you stay away from certain stuff. But if you are really choosing to live, to be sober, you know, to be happy, you kind of follow those roads that you know are going to take you personally. It's not always everybody, you know. We said before, some people can have a beer and they're cool. It's nothing. That's not their problem, you know. But all of us are wired different. It's just, I think it is just knowing, you know, how we really are wired, you know. So with all that being said, I think Alive is just being grateful for this time that we have here on this earth.
Speaking of gratitude, I'm grateful for the song "Alive" as well. I know when that song came out, it was a very dark time for a lot of people, very heavy times, and there was so much talk about the timing, just you know, how the universe guides you. Here you go. This is what the world needs right now. And Sonny, you were right there with Alive for a lot of people during that time, and continue to be as well. I'm thinking about it, and I've seen it live since then, and every time it's one of those songs. So I too would recommend Alive by P.O.D. as well. But then, I was thinking about our stuff. We actually did a song called "Coming Down," and I don't know that the lyrics so much deal with that sort of thing, but the video certainly does. So I would encourage people to check out the video "Coming Down" by Five Finger Death Punch on all the platforms, YouTube and whatnot. And there's also a phone number at the end that you can call for help if you're going through anything. It's kind of crazy that, you know, if we need the cops, we got 911. But if we got mental depression, you got, what's the number again? There's no catchy number. We need to work on that. Give something easy to remember. But as far as songs and lyrical content, I would probably go with Lift Me Up. I was just talking to Ivan, our lead singer, about this last night, and you know, we always like to leave it open for interpretation. But that was a dark time that he was going through when he was writing his lyrics, and he was just like, you know, lift me up above this. And it's an inspirational song. And even if you don't like us, it's got Rob Halford from Judas Priest on there. Everybody loves Rob.
That's awesome, dude.
Oh man. Oh hey, Brian's back.
Hey, look,
My bad.
look at that guy.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so you know, I don't do rock music like y'all, and not near as talented and gifted as you guys, but I operate in the spoken word realm, and a few years ago I wrote a piece called "Please Don't Kill Yourself," and then it went viral. And I mean, to this day, it's wild because the comments are there every day on YouTube, and they come in, and it's just sad because you see how, like, darkness is not a respecter of persons and statuses. You see people of all walks of life who are affected by these demons, and so I would say, please don't kill yourself. It's just, it's simple, and it's a message straight to the heart of people who are struggling. It's just pleading with them not to leave. There's hope for you, but then in the leaving, you're also leaving the pain, and you're just putting it on the people who are closest to you. So there's no winning with suicide. The pain goes on, and it goes on, and it goes on. So
should have read the questions. I'd pick my song "Alive."
Yeah.
I mean, when I wrote the lyrics,
I already picked that one, man.
I so alive the very first time when I wrote it, you know, just like being alive for the first time. But I don't know. Shoot, man. Okay, falling away from me from Korn. Just that talks about this. Jonathan wrote those lyrics, articulating the struggle of just that fall. What we were talking about this whole conversation, man. And I always tell people, like, and I get to play with one of my favorite singers in the world is in my band, and so he really articulated his feelings in a powerful way back then. And Jonathan got sober before all of us. He was sober so long ago, and so yeah, I'll pick that song. Just, you know, talking about the struggle of the subject tonight. So
that's beautiful. Well, you're about to go perform that here in just a little bit, aren't you?
Yeah, I got 1 hour. People, my tour manager texted me while we were on. He's like, "Are you planning on working today?"
We got thousands of people waiting for you.
Right.
Awesome, man.
I mean, anybody out there that's struggling right now, I would tell you, fight with every single thing, every fiber in your body. Fight. Don't give up. Fight. And if that means grabbing a hold of somebody next to you and telling them, I'm drowning, grab a hold of somebody next to you and tell them, don't let the shadows swallow you, because there is light. And I personally believe that there is a God in heaven who sent his son Jesus Christ to die for us, and that anyone who calls upon his name, the name of the Lord, shall be saved. Man, there's so much more for you. There is life, there is hope, and the devil is a liar. Fear is a liar. Drown that stuff out and push forward. And if you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for the people around you who love you. And I'm on the other side of the darkness, and I'm proof that, I believe I'm proof that God is real, because he reached down and loved on a little lowly old me, and he could do the same thing for you. He loves you, and don't give up.
For sure, man. I think for people, that's just it. A lot of people don't believe that they're loved. You know what I mean? Or they believe that they've made so many mistakes and gone so far, into the darkness that there is no way out. But like you said, brother, I do believe that is a lie. From hell itself. I believe, being a man of faith, that God, He loves us, He loves you. And it is about fighting. It is about knowing your worth. Through my scriptures, I find my identity. In Jesus, I find my identity in God, and so that gives me, not only feeds me the truth, but it gives me the knowledge, and it gives me the desire to live. You know what I mean? If I'm believing the lies, and I'm listening to all the negative things around me, like, then you're not going to desire to live. But when I know God is saying, I love you, son. You know what I mean? I created you with a plan and with a purpose, and I have good things for your life. And it's not always perfect, but I'm with you wherever you go, even into the darkness. I'm with you. So I think people just need to know, their value, their worth, and discover who they are. And listen to the truth. And you just got to, again, put up your guard, man. There's a lot of things in this world that you might not even think is negative for you. It might take you out of your lane, but there is, man. It's a slippery slope. This is a slippery slope we walk in this world. You know what I mean?
Right.
So when you do know that you're loved, Chris said this earlier. You might not have all the friends you think you want, but there are people that love you, and they care that you fight. They care that you make it to tomorrow. So if tomorrow seems the future seems too far away, man, to just make it to tomorrow. The Bible says that joy comes in the morning. So if we remember that today kind of sucks, but I'm promised joy in the morning. So I'm gonna keep on rocking until for one more day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, amen.
And I'll carry over to that joy in the morning. My morning routine is what gets me started mentally. The brain is also a muscle. Just like in the gym, if you stop working the biceps, that's going to go away. You can change the chemistry of the brain by focusing your thoughts on different things. And you have a choice. You can think this direction, or you can think that direction. It's totally up to you. You alone decide whether you're miserable or whether you're happy. Nobody else can do that for you. That's all in here. So change your perspective and change your life. I'm the guy in the room that my spirituality is in the universe. I know when I went to rehab, and as soon as they started talking about God, just past resentments, I was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this. Oh, I'm not going to be able to do this. After I continued to dig in and get spiritual, I would say I'm more spiritual than religious, I guess. And I also know that what I'm calling the universe is what everybody else is calling God. I just listened to too much deicide when I was growing up, and I'm still stubborn. So yeah, just morning routine. I mean, I encourage everybody to continue to live, but take steps, take action to change your mind. You are in control. You can't control anything that happens to you. The one thing that you do have control over is your reaction to those things. You and you alone decide how to handle that. So you can look at it positively, you can look at it negatively, but I choose positivity in all things. And anybody that knows me and talks to me knows I'm. There was a girl at the Hard Rock when I used to work. She goes, "Oh, here comes Mr. Shit and Sunshine."
How come I haven't heard that before? That's a good one.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Even Mr. Shit and Sunshine hit those dark, depressing levels.
Yeah.
And had to change the chemistry of the brain through a lot of inner work and dealing with problems rather than running away from stuff. That's another thing too. I had to learn how to do. Yeah. I think that's all I got. Yeah.
That's beautiful, man.
Mary, talk about the clashing of worlds. You got to think about this for a second. P.O.D, Korn, Five Finger Death Punch, and Clayton Jennings, like, all in one conversation. That is absurd to even think about, but somehow or another, it happened, and we were able to be a fly on the wall for that, which is crazy. Like, especially the stuff that Chris Kael started speaking about, just talking about people having gratitude, wanting to better themselves and choosing to better themselves daily through just simple techniques. There's so many bits of knowledge in all these conversations, but especially this one. I couldn't think of a better way to end this live stream.
I totally agree with you. I feel like that conversation feels like watching like the Avengers of hard rock. It's like our like superheroes who have all this wisdom that they've gleaned from being in these spaces and really living and doing their own mental health work for decades. So yeah, just unbelievable to watch that kind of team up happen right here as part of Choose to Live.
Yeah, and I love that you bring up superheroes and like the fandoms that are around them, because when you think about it, when you're vulnerable and you're opening up on these things, like it could be cool to call them a superhero because they're providing knowledge and value to people that wouldn't have it if they didn't open their mouth about it. So again, thank you so much to Chris Kael, Five Finger Death Punch, Sonny Sandoval, P.O.D, Brian Head Welch from Korn, and Clayton Jennings for that amazing conversation. And we also want to thank Powerline Management and everyone on the teams with Trevor Talks and Transparent Media Co. for just being such good stewards of putting this thing on. And I couldn't get through this without thanking Quiet Strength Design as well for making this thing look professional and piece everything together with us. It's literally a dream come true to be able to put events like this on, now being our second year. And who knows, maybe we'll have one next year. But this night isn't over yet, is it, Mary?
It is not. In fact, it would be a tragedy if you tapped out now, because we've got something special coming your way.
Yeah, it's insane to think that we have an event with all these amazing bands and get to end it with such a purposeful and meaningful song from a very amazing band called Disciple, which, Mary, you've worked with Disciple for God knows how many years. And this song in particular, Invisible, means a lot to me in particular. Like when we started piecing this event together, I was like, there has to be a way to get this song in the live stream. And this year, like, we obviously have more performances than last year. It's not just music videos and such. We're growing as we go. But every single person that was supposed to be a part of this, like even day of, we got booked for these conversations. Like we woke up within 4 hours of recording these and just people saying yes and being generous with their time. So again, thank you to Powerline Management, Transparent Media Co., all our friends with Trevor Talks that help us put this stuff on. It's beyond encouraging to even think about. But Disciples up next. How do you feel about that, Mary?
Oh, I feel very excited. As you mentioned, I have a lot of history with them, and I love that you brought up how this song has been really special to you in particular, because that's something that we have in common, and I think that's part of what made it like a no-brainer for us to make sure that I got to be a part of this. And um, you know, beyond my history working with the band, I have a personal history with them where not only did the song really impact my life, but it was the pairing of the fact that it was the song and then the actual band members really living out the song in a very tangible way towards me. And I'm going to embarrass them by saying that, but they really have the kind of character that I think brings a song to life. So that even if you're coming from a different perspective from the one that they're coming from, I would just really encourage you. They're the real deal. The words that they're saying, they absolutely mean, and they back it up with their character and their kindness and the way that they've shown up in the music industry now for decades.
Yeah. And I love that you bring that up because, yes, like if you do not agree with anything that he says, that's fine. Listen to the song. There's something in this song for everyone.
Please help us welcome Kevin Young and then Disciple.
Hey, this is Kevin with the band Disciple. A few years ago, more than a few, 2008, 2009, I met this kid in South Dakota, I think. Not 100% sure it all runs together. But he helped us out. He helped us load out that night and hung out until after everybody was gone. He was helping us load up the trailer. Super sweet kid. And we were just buddies and hanging out and talking just about whatever. And he had all these cuts on his arms, more cuts on anybody than I'd ever seen before. And I was just so curious and just wanted to understand more. And so I finally asked him after we had just talked about all kinds of other things. I said, talk to me about the cuts and the scars on your arm. I said, why does that happen? Why are you doing that? Why do people do that? He said, well, I can't really speak for anybody else and why somebody else does it. He said, but for me, he said, I just feel invisible. And I feel like nobody sees me, nobody hears me. That I could just be in a room full of 100 people and like no one even know that I'm there. And no one would even know if I was gone. And it's just my way of saying, can you see me now? And I'll never forget his words. They stuck with me and they hurt me really. And I knew that we had to write a song about it, and I wanted it to be great, and not for the other band reasons that you want a song to be great, but I wanted it to be great for him. And I remember we wrote a first version of it, and I was like, it's not good enough. It's not worthy of what, I want him to have. And then we wrote another version of it, and I was like, no, it's still not good enough. And then finally we wrote a third version. I just wanted him to know and to hear that God loves him and that God sees him and God hears him and has a purpose for his life, and that he has a reason to live. And, before that time, I hadn't really met that many people with scars or cuts on their arms. And before that, couple years before that, I'd never really met very many people who had struggled with suicide. But since then, I've met thousands of people who've dealt with that, suicidal thoughts or hurting themselves. And I didn't really know at the time. I thought I was writing that song for him. I never really dealt with depression very much or anything like that, but until recently. And I didn't know that there was going to be a day that I was going to need to hear that I'm not invisible and that God sees me and hears me and that there is a purpose for my life. Everybody gets to that place in different ways. I never knew there was going to be a day that I would hurt myself. And I did it in different ways that everybody does it in their own way. But I never knew there would be a day where I was going to need to hear the message of that song. And I was going to desperately need to believe in the truth of it. That all of us have our own special fingerprint. And I believe the reason for that is that God made us all to be not anybody else, to not strive to look or feel like anybody else, but to be the best version of ourselves that we could be. That the plan for your life and my life is unique to anyone else. And no one else can do it the way that we can do it. And so I say this tonight to anyone who's listening, and I say it to myself, that his mercies are new every morning. Now, however you got here to this place feeling like you don't want to face tomorrow, feeling like you're invisible, feeling like nobody loves you, however you got here is not as important as the fact that you're here. And I want to encourage you to continue to be here, because this is where you're supposed to be. And take ending your life as an option, take that option off the table and promise me and promise God and promise the other people that you love. Make them a promise to live, because your life is a life that has purpose, is a life that has destiny, is a life that you and you alone were meant to live. And I'm not, and you're not invisible. God sees us. He hears us. He loves us. He doesn't need us, but he chose us. You are chosen and you are loved. God bless you.
attention. There's no need to hurt yourself this way. You think no one will notice how you're feeling, but when you cry yourself to sleep, you feel stuck on the outside, looking inside, wishing this life wasn't your life. You think you're damaged way beyond repair. Well, you're not so far that I can't get to where you are. You wish you were someone else. Every night you fall to pieces, knowing you can't save yourself. And I can see you, I can hear you. There's a place where the broken go. There's a room full of second chances. You're not stranded on your own. You're not invisible. I'm ready to listen. There's no need to hold it all inside. The smallest whisper, I can hear it when your strength is all but died. I need you to believe me. Could you trust me that what you see is not what I see? The reflection in the mirror's telling lies. 'Cause nothing you have done can change how much I love you. You wish you were someone else. Every night you fall to pieces, knowing you can't save yourself. I see you, I hear you. There's a place where the broken go. There's a room full of second chances. You're not stranded on your own. You're not invisible. You're not invisible to me. You are not invisible. You wish you were someone else. Every night you fall to pieces, knowing you can't save yourself. I can see you, I hear you. There's a place where the broken go. There's a room full of a million chances. You're not stranded on your own. You're not alone. You're not stranded on your own. You're not invisible. You're not invisible to me. You're not invisible to me.
You know, we're highlighting all these really big names tonight, but ultimately, all of this is about you as the fans, as the listeners. You know, these songs belong first to the artist, but then they belong to you. And I think that's really been shown by how all of you have shown up to be a part of this event. So seriously, thank you, thank you, thank you for being the reason why all of this exists to begin with.
And if you're struggling tonight, we have so many resources available for you. As we've mentioned throughout this live stream, everything's going to be in the description below. So Heart Support, Beneath the Skin, Death to Life, the Whosoevers, Youth of the Nation Foundation, and even the new crisis text and call line. I believe it's 988, which you can call or text at any point in time. And that's a crisis text line. They're there for you. They want to talk to you in that moment. If you feel like life is too heavy right now, reach out to some of these resources because they're all amazing. We sign off on them 120 billion%. If you want to find somewhere to donate to one of those nonprofits. We love them so much. They're so amazing. And as Mary was saying, this event is all for you guys. We've both been in the position that we question our life's value, and that's what this is birthed out of. We're not making this event for likes, comments, shares, or anything like that. Of course, those things are always nice, but that's not the mission here. If you're watching this right now, if you're hearing our voices, know that there is a reason to choose to live today and every single day moving forward.